Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Slot One Super Podcast. We are back for episode 10, baby! Woo! We made it to episode 10. It's honestly kind of crazy that we have gotten this far. How are y'all doing in the chat? Thank you all for being here, of course, as per usual, joining me, Dokkan Assets, today to my... Wait, what? They're left. I don't know how to do directions. To my left is Renato's plan. I swear.
Well, it's to your right, right?
Is he? I guess so. And then, of course, the boy masking it. Bro, have we gotten that right once with the directions? I don't think there's been a single episode where we've ever...
I feel like I have.
Yeah.
Maybe, because you know where you put us. You know?
I need to do the old, that trick you do with your fingers so you can tell left and right. That's what I need to do whenever I'm trying to figure it out.
Good stuff.
Oh my gosh. Well, welcome back everybody to another week. We have some very exciting stuff to go over. Obviously, this week was a pretty big release. Yeah, well, no leaks actually this week, but release week, for Dokkan. Obviously, we had Super Saiyan 4 Goku come out on Global just yesterday, or I guess technically today. And of course, on JP, we had the boy Gohan and Piccolo. So we're going to talk about all of that and more today. But of course, everybody, as a quick reminder, just want to remind you guys that if you want to help support the podcast and you have any questions, comments, or shoutouts, we will, of course, read all donations and super chats at the end of the show. So, of course, not only stick around to the end to hear the answers to all of your questions and whatnot, but, of course, that is where we read it. So if you send one through, don't worry, we're going to read it out. We ain't forgetting about you. All right. So let's hop into things here. So starting us off for today, we did want to... oh, man. We did want to actually throw it back to last week's episode. Shout out to episode 9 of the Slot One Super Podcast for being completely wrong in every form of fashion. If you guys remember, last week was full of predictions for upcoming stuff for Dokkan Battle, where, we talked about what was next on the global release schedule. We talked about what other heroes characters there could be, all that good stuff. And seemingly all of it was proven wrong in one foul swoop, thanks to the Dragon Ball The Breakers anniversary live stream, which happened literally the night after of the podcast, rather, the same day after it happened. So thank you, Dokkan, for clowning on us on that front. Always appreciate it, bro. So with that being said, right, before we get on to the big man himself, Goku, let's go over the Dragon Ball Heroes information that we got from the live stream. So ironically enough, of course, when I was talking about this last week, I mentioned that I didn't think that they were going to do Vegeta, the Berserk controlled Vegeta, because I was like, oh, he's too similar to normal blue Vegeta. They're not going to do him. And boy, was I proved wrong. Happily so, by the way, because I do actually really like this form, and I'm glad that I was wrong. But of course, as was announced on the Dragon Ball The Breakers live stream, and then of course later on in the night after the Breakers stream, we had that little tweet from Global. The brand new units that are going to be on the Dragon Ball Heroes banner, besides the ones that we already saw, of course, with Vegeta and Rose, are going to be the full power Super Saiyan 4 Limit Breaker Broly. That card art is sick, by the way. Dark King Fu, which is really cool. I think it's supposed to technically be Dark Demon King Fu, but I guess they're just simplifying it. And of course, Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta Berserk Controlled. Very, very awesome choices. Obviously, these are pretty big highlights from the arc, right? Of course, all of these different things taking place during the Universe Tree arc, which is kind of funny that, we got all this Universe Tree representation, but the two, arguably biggest moments being Universe Tree Goku and not when they fuse, but when Xeno Goku and Goku fuse their energies. Obviously, that is also not a card from the set. So we'll have to see if that eventually becomes a card. But I am very excited with the choices here. I think these are some great ones I talked about on Twitter myself, that I felt like this has the potential to be the greatest Heroes banner that we've ever gotten with this lineup. Of course, my fellow Heroes brother, Ningen. How are we feeling about this batch of units here?
Hell yeah, very excited. we said before, a big prediction going into this year was Limit Breaker Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Broly. When they didn't show Broly initially, obviously showing the Rose and Vegeta as kind of the two big headline releases. I said even from that point, I still thought we could see Broly on the banner. So good to see him. Dark King Fu is obviously one of those ones that like he's a cool pick for somebody who's into heroes, but probably not so much for like the casual, you know, outsider that maybe plays Dokkan and just kind of, even people who do appreciate the heroes units because they are the, you know, seeing some of the characters in their cool and wacky forms. Fu is obviously probably not as hype of a pick for them, but it's still a cool pick for those of us in the know, I suppose. Plus, you know, he could still be very good. We had characters like Meki Cabra that came out the year with God Trunks that was really good on release. So very interested to see what he's going to do. And then, yeah, the blue Berserk controlled Vegeta, which I believe, I know our boy in the chat, Prof, knows all about it with the heroes, the way they separate the arcs and everything. But I believe that the Vegeta is the first one of the heroes characters that is like is it like the Capsule Corp? Like he's the main version of Vegeta, not the like Xeno version. So that obviously opens the door for there to potentially be more of the non-Xeno characters, which we haven't had as much before. So like, because is it the Universe Tree Goku is the CC Goku, right? Not the Xeno Goku. So obviously opens the door for that kind of stuff in the future, which is quite interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely very excited. And of course, the one big thing as well, it's not shown on this image, because I woke up and saw this image because the Breaker stream was at 3 o'clock in the morning for the UK. So I didn't get to watch it. And then when I woke up, I obviously saw the news that people had posted and I saw this image and it's like, okay, cool. So these are 3 characters. I wonder who the other ones are going to be. But of course, there's that screenshot from the stream with the actual subtitle where it says that these are the remaining heroes characters. So unless that is a mistranslation, it means that the heroes banner, we now know the full lineup and it's only 7 units and none of them are not getting awakenings. So that is awesome because, you know, guaranteed featured. Like at the end of the day, RNG is going to do what RNG does. You might still pull the one you don't want multiple times in a row, but because the banner's guaranteed featured, a 1 in 7 chance to get the character you want is definitely better than a 1 in 10 chance. So that is very cool. And it means going forward, obviously, hopefully we will see every year fewer characters on the banner and we won't get this annoying like thing where we have to wait a year for them to awaken. So overall, definitely very, very excited. Literally now we're just waiting for them to start actually giving us the details because that's going to be the big thing, right? Is you know, there's those of us that are going to be going in regardless, but for a lot of people who are on the fence, it's all going to come down to how good they are and how restricted they are, if at all, right? Because it's no use like Rose, for example, being super, super good, but then he's only good if you run him on like a full heroes team, right? Because then, you know, whilst that's good for us, for if we want to run the heroes team, if tempted to summon just because you think he looks cool and you've never summoned on heroes before, it makes him a lot less valuable of a card to pull, unfortunately. But overall, very excited. So can't wait to find out what they do. I don't know if we have a rough idea. I should have double checked before when they revealed the kits and stuff like last year, but
that's
still be a while to wait. So, but very excited.
I saw somebody tweet. Yeah, I'm excited too. I saw someone tweet it's 3 weeks. I think. I mean, again, I'm just trusting a random Twitter user, I suppose, but that's what I saw literally right before.
Because the banners come out in like 18 days. So.
Yeah, the banner,
I guess
it sales on GP and on the 20th, so like the 21st, 22nd is when the banner starts.
Yeah, 21st was the date it said on the global, like in the fine print in the corner, which I think will probably be the morning of the 22nd for me, because it's listed
they
as
actually
21st
confirmed the
PST.
start date on the stream? I didn't even see that.
It's in the image they posted. So like this, in fact, this image that I've put up on the screen, if I move it up slightly,
it has it
in the
corner,
bottom corner,
I
it
didn't
says,
even see that.
actually, no, this one doesn't, the old one does.
It's so
I saw
funny.
like Super Saiyan 4 Goku one, but
bro, it's so funny because I know like literally this is such a Dragon Ball fan moment because I cannot tell you how many people I saw on the timeline that were like, "Oh, when does the celebration start? When does it start?" And I'm like, "Bro, read it. It says in the image, please." But to be fair, it is very much so in the fine print, so I can't really blame people for missing it. It's literally like where they place the copyright information, basically. So, you know, I can't even really blame people for not, you know, noticing it. But very cool that we got the official confirmed date. I will say, Ningen, the one thing I did want to mention with Few is that I think that one, I guess, dub that Few has is that at least he is in Xenoverse. So I suppose at least, bless you, Minato, at least if if you've played Xenoverse before, I suppose at that rate you would at least know who the character is, right? You might not know the form, but I think that's another huge benefit that this Heroes banner has personally, and another reason why I think from like a general standpoint, it's definitely one of, if not the best, Heroes banner to date for, I think, like the general audience and fans of Heroes, because not only does it just have like a lot of hype stuff, just for people who are fans of Heroes specifically, but obviously it's a lot of characters that are just kind of like well known and not very niche to like only coming from SDBH, right? They have some form outside of it. So
yeah, plus like
I
the
think,
same vein as Fu, like the fact that Toe is the free to play unit. It's like, these are characters that people will know potentially from outside Heroes, which is cool. And then again, even if people don't know the forms, I guarantee you might, people in the chat might think, oh, that's definitely not me, but there's gonna be people out there who play Dokkan who've never seen some of this stuff from Heroes, but for example are like a big Broly fan or a big Vegeta fan, and then the fact that we've got these big popular characters like Rose as well coming with these like new forms, like it's definitely I think a very high profile, like very exciting banner. I think the exact same thing as you. I think I called my video that on the day these guys got announced. But yeah, this potentially going to be the best Heroes banner like ever. So as long as the units are good, so fingers crossed.
Honestly, that's the only thing really, is that I think as long as as long as they can make these characters really strong, and honestly, like they need to be strong. Like I think that's certainly like a big factor. But I think another just really big factor about it is that they need to be runnable on everything else, because I know that was like the biggest issue with Trunks's batch of units, right? Is that everybody was like, well, I mean, these characters are cool, but I can really only run them on this team for being able to use the character's full potential.
Even like last year, right? A lot of some of the units were restricted to like wanting full heroes. It was kind of weird. So just hopefully this year they don't do that, but.
Well, plus they did the really wonky thing with like full power Limit Breaker Goku is the example, right? Because he needs to have a rotation that is full, because the way it's worded is it says like full heroes or full power, but it has to be fully one or the other. You can't have one full power and one heroes.
You can't mix and match,
which is stupid.
That, right?
Which is really dumb. Yeah.
So not only is it a restriction, but it's like the most restricted version of that restriction. So because if it was if he could mix them, so it could be one heroes and one full power, it would still be annoying, but it wouldn't be as bad. But so we definitely don't want to see any of that, because obviously characters like Rose would be super good on Zamasu's team. Vegeta will be super good on other like Fusion or Power Beyond Super Saiyan teams. So just I don't mind them giving units restrictions, as long as they're restrictions that let you use them with other units that you want to, right? So if Vegeta is going to have some kind of restriction and they want to throw heroes in there somewhere, you got to put something like Power Beyond Super Saiyan in there as well, right? So it's as an or, for example. So like, say for example, he's going to have guard if there's a heroes ally or a Power Beyond Super Saiyan ally or something. So you're not just restricting him to the heroes team, right? So, but hopefully we will find out sooner rather than later, and I can't wait.
Hopefully. I think if I am recalling, I would definitely have to go back and look it up. But if I am recalling, I believe the info was shown off like a lot closer to the actual banner's release. So we'll definitely have to wait. This is always the most painful time. Go ahead. Minato, what were you going to say?
I mean, one good thing is we'll talk about it later, but for current banners that are out, if we want to wait and see what the heroes banners are looking like, that's an option.
That's true, which is very, very nice. It's nice that they always have that as like a little bit of an overlap. Will global discounts be gone by then? Do either of you know?
So as far as I know, the discounts on Goku's banner don't actually have a time limit. They're just the 3+1. So you can do them 3 times only, but they don't have a time limit, which is really good.
And it lasts all the way till the 29th, right?
Yep.
So
because I was going to say we could bring that up. I mean, that's going to be the next topic we go into anyway, right? But yeah, for global specifically, if you want to see what the heroes units are going to do before you decide to summon on Goku, his banner will not only still be up, but the 3+1 discounted like things will still be active as well. So
Right.
I know it means you have to wait, but that's pretty cool that you actually can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know when we discuss them later, I don't know if anybody's necessarily going to be waiting for Gohan and Piccolo, but I know for certain for Goku, I know a lot of people are, definitely looking forward and wanting to see. Because the other thing is too, right? When it comes to Goku, obviously it's really cool that he is releasing at the same time as Vegito, because of course, I hope that they're gonna be decent when you can run them together. So I think that will be really cool, honestly, to be able to have them. And I don't know, it's just kind of hype. I think honestly, I play JP mainly, but I still think it's super exciting anyway that like 2 brand new full power Super Saiyan 4 characters and 2 of the coolest arguably are coming out at the exact same time on global. Well, not the exact same time, but you know what I mean, like generally speaking. So
yeah. Exactly, because Vegito's one of the headliners, so he's going to have like fierce battle, obviously going to have like Saiyan Raw, stuff like that. So yeah, they're going to be, as long as you, again, going back to what we said about restrictions, right, as long as you can run them together on some teams, then that's going to be really good.
Yeah, definitely. So either way, I know we are all excited for Dragon Ball Heroes over here. Unfortunately, our next few podcast episodes are probably going to only have the offhand mention of it because we're going to have no new info.
Good.
Unfortunate.
Screw Heroes talk every week. Oh my goodness. I can't
wait. Bro, it's going to be so funny because...
Outrageous. Now, November is Heroes season, baby.
Yes, sir.
It is Heroes season.
It's so funny because I already know, like, the episode that the hero stuff comes out, me and Ningen are going to be going, like, feral, basically, with all the new info and stuff. And then the week after, Minato's going to, like, rise up like a villain from the ashes, being like, yeah, we're going to talk about any of that nonsense this week.
I'm just saying, if they suck, I'm not holding back.
Dude, we are not going to hear the, we're not going to hear the end of it if they suck.
I'd be like, Heroes agenda? Are like they suck. I'm just kidding. Look, I want the Heroes units to be good. I am so excited for Vegito, for Rose. I love Rose. Even like Limit Breaker Broly, like all these units this year, I think they're really good choices.
Oh yeah. Yep.
This is like almost my favorite batch of hero unit choices this year.
Oh
so if they're
this
bad,
year, it's the only ones this year. What do you mean? No, I know what you meant. I just goofing on.
So if they're bad, my disappointment's even gonna be higher.
Yeah, no, my disappointment is immeasurable. My day is ruined. Time vibe, bro.
Imagine it's like
that will literally be me.
It's like have 5 hero units on the team and you get a high chance guard.
Oh man, don't say that, bro.
High chance to guard when all allies attacking the same turn are Dragon Ball Heroes.
My I said it last week. I think my biggest cope is still going to be that they saw the feedback from last year and how mad people were about the Heroes units. And
I hope so, man.
Hopefully,
I mean,
we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't want any unit released to be bad. Like that's stupid.
No, yeah, I think we discussed that. Ironically enough, on like a previous episode where we talked about that, like, as much as sometimes we clown on units and stuff like that, right? On the podcast, or we'll, like goof on certain characters or whatever. At the end of the day, you never want a unit to be bad because, like, that's only, I don't know what the opposite of beneficial is. Unbeneficial, I guess, right? It's
detrimental.
Just not... Yeah, that's a good word.
It's detrimental to the game, right? For them to be releasing characters that nobody likes.
Right. It's not good for the players. It's not good for the devs. It's not good for their wallet. It's not good for anybody. So,
hey, Dokkan devs, guess what? Make good units, make more money.
Right. I know, bro. Isn't that a crazy concept?
No way.
Oh, man. All right, well, with that all being said, that is everything for Dragon Ball Heroes. We'll just have to wait for more info coming up, hopefully pretty soon. But obviously, we had some pretty big releases on Dokkan this week for Global and JP. Definitely more so for Global. And of course, the global release for this week was the big man himself, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, the LR. Of course, we also got we got clowned on with this one as well, because last week we were also discussing the fact that there was no way that Super Saiyan 4 Goku was going to be the next unit on Global. It was impossible. They would not change that celebration.
Whoa, hey, come on now. And to be fair, in our defense, we didn't say it was impossible, because you should never say never when it comes to Dokkan.
Never say never when it comes
The unfortunate thing is...
That is true.
Yeah, it's just, we all kind of agree that Trunks coming out first made more sense, but...
I mean, it made more sense, but they're like, nope.
But at the end of the day, Goku coming out first is more hype, because who cares about Trunks?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, you could argue it's technically more hype, but then you could also say, well, now if Trunks was first, I have more stones for Goku.
Yeah, or more stones for heroes.
That was the only thing that I will say I was a little like
Heroes.
sad for global players, because obviously y'all know that I play JP. I was like, dang, bro, that's kind of unfortunate from the perspective of, like, obviously that's a lot less stones that you now have to summon on, Forku or the heroes units, whichever one regardless. But it's still just like, man, that's a whole, celebration of a saving time gone. So,
I mean, I feel like Trunks' celebration in part 1 had more stones than Super Saiyan 4 Goku's part 1 celebration anyways. So, like, even if it was like, oh, I wanted more stones for heroes, Trunks' celebration would have had more stones available, because they dropped like a lot of content during the Trunks celebration.
Yeah,
from what I'm recalling, right? So
I think so. A decent amount. Certainly more than the Piccolo and Gohan.
I mean,
rest in peace, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's stick to Goku. So obviously, when it comes to the big man himself, the banner was unchanged from JP, which I guess is kind of a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing, because obviously I know a lot of people were hoping that God Goku was going to be included on the global banner, which unfortunately is not the case. But right, I guess. In the way of, now it's not mixing up the units where they would then come back on global, I suppose in that regard, it's a good thing. But global also got free tickets. Ningen, I'll ask Minato how he feels about Goku, but for Ningen, obviously you're a global gamer. So tell us a little bit about the ticket shenanigans that we have with this banner. Mm-hmm. Right. I think he did, yeah. Wow.
My mic was muted the whole time. Good stuff.
No, was it?
Not for you guys.
I heard you.
No, for you guys.
It was muted on stream.
Yeah. So.
Oh no! I'm sorry,
You'll
bro.
love to see it.
Wait, was it? Imagine it was the whole podcast.
You'll love to see
Imagine it was the whole podcast.
Yeah. So.
No way.
Okay, so tickets. We got 5 for free if you did your missions in the countdown. So everyone got 5 tickets for free. Shout out to those absolute mad lads that pulled Goku off of the 5 free tickets.
That's crazy.
I had at least 2 people in my stream this morning saying in the chat, now obviously, whether they did or not, but 2 people saying in the chat that they pulled them off the free tickets, which is pretty crazy. And then, there's extra tickets available from the missions. They hint at part 2 stuff because there's the missions say part 1. So I think it was Annie on Twitter saying that there's potentially going to be 15 in total once we get the part 2 ones, because I think we got the 5 free ones to start. There's 5 more you can get from this part, and then potentially going to be 5 more in part 2 as well, because there's one from the login that's like a few days away, so you can't get that one yet. So free tickets, obviously very good. And then as always, it seems to be a common thing now for global, for basically every banner. You can buy tickets from the shop as well. So you can get a whole bunch of tickets through the shop and from logins. And then of course the banner had the same format as the Vegeta and Trunks banner last year for global, where discounted multis, 30, 35 and then 45, and then a free one, and you can do that 3 times. So in total, that adds up to 110 stones for the 3+1 rotation, 330 stones in total to do 12 multis. So that is 600 stones worth of summons for 330 stones. So very, very good. And the banner, you know, it's not amazing, but obviously you've got Goku, you've got Vegeta and Trunks who are still good. You've got both the Gammas who can still put in work. So
they're crazy.
the banner's definitely not, you know, the banner's definitely not terrible. And then even the units, apart from Pan, even the units on there who aren't particularly good are probably not that far away from getting an easy A. So overall, it's not terrible. Like units like the physical Blue Boys and like in Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, like we could probably see them easy A within like a year, right? So definitely not terrible. But for those for those value, for the discounts and everything, I would say the rotations, just doing the full discounts, the 330 for 12 multis, I think is definitely worthwhile. So
just want to say, oh, they likely could easy in the next year, and then I'm looking at Super Saiyan 3 Goku. So I'm like,
but he's a special case, though. He's a special case.
I'm just saying, never say that because you never know.
That is true. That is true.
But hopefully, they are in line for easy A's eventually, and you know, the Blue Boys with all this. I mean, there's like no way we're not getting Tournament of Power stuff like next year, like in a huge abundance. I feel
a big boy Tournament of Power celebration.
I would say that their easy is pretty likely. So we'll see how that ends up being. But I honestly, if I'm just gonna give my little sense in there, I don't like the banner at all. I think that the banner is definitely a pretty safe skip.
Dang, that's crazy.
Returns, except for the discounts. I think the discounts provide so much value.
Yeah,
you get double the value of your stones spent with the discounts. So it's like I know. I mean, Super Saiyan 4 is so like Super Saiyan 4 in general is cool.
Yeah, he's
still a really good unit. There's still, I'm sure a lot of people, you know, could still use the Gammas on global. So I think it's not like a terrible summon because of the discounts. But outside of that, I would say discounts, then stop and save for Saiyan Day with the coins.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I do think you know what is funny is that when you were saying that, obviously, I know some of you may recall. I know obviously Minato and Ningen, I'm sure remember this, but I got like big shafted on Forku's banner on JP. It was one of those like terrible Dokkan shafts. I think your Trunks one was very much so worse, but it was still not good regardless. No, your trunk. You're like your LR trunk shaft. That's what I mean.
I didn't even want to think about that.
Damn, dude.
It was so. Either way, though, right? Like, I think it was around like 2,500 or something that I won, something like that total for Goku, and but that was between both banners, right? That was between the Tanabata and the regular one. I will say, I remember even thinking on JP, man, this banner is not that good. Like when I was summoning on it, I was like, man, but that's also because I have all the characters, right? Like obviously I summon a lot, and not to mention I think it was before that banner. It was either before that banner or on that banner I rainbowed the Gammas. And for me, like, they were really the other big value units that were on the banner. So I can understand why people wouldn't think that's good. But obviously, like, banners are so subjective because you have to, you know, think like, oh, well, for somebody who's doesn't have, you know, any of these characters, obviously it's pretty decent. But obviously for us who summon all the time, you know, it's not great. But regardless, though, obviously, Goku will also be on a global version of the Tanabata banner coming up too, which of course, you know, he will be available on that, and then that will extend his time on global for a little bit longer. But wasn't there also, before we talk about the big man himself, wasn't there also something that I saw? I think shout out to the boy Toonrami. He noticed it in the global news where there was like the super Sphinx tickets. Yeah.
That was a
mistake. Yeah.
Was it an error? Right? Okay.
So
I didn't know if it was an error or not.
They put the wrong ID of the ticket in there, and then they fixed it the next day.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear any follow-up.
Festival ticket. Okay. Yeah. I still made a video on it because I was like, you know, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been nuts if that was the case. But okay, that's
it would have been really weird. I would have assumed that would have been a filler banner in part 2, but it makes sense. That ticket was associated with, like, I think Tech Vegeta Blues banner. Like,
it was definitely very confusing when that was shown in the news.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. Well, Minato, I know I've been keeping you on the hook for a fat minute now. Tell us your thoughts on the funny man himself. How are you feeling about Super Saiyan 4 Goku?
He's good. Really, really good. I think that one of the best units of the game. Still top 10 LR in my opinion. It's very weird. I think there's like people who overrate him, but there's also people who underrate him. It's really interesting to me. And it's just really, I think a lot of more people are interested in this character, so there's a much wider, almost demographic of people who are talking about the unit, and obviously
Mhm.
it's LR Super Saiyan 4 Goku. That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Um, I do have a little bit of gripes with him, but overall, he's very key sufficient. He's very easily assigned on some of these teams. He's on just a billion category teams you could use. I think he's a simple unit. You put him in slot one, let him cook. He does his thing. Um, the Oob standby portion, I think, is the thing that people should talk about way more is Oob. Oob on that card, even if we don't get full power out, Oob is such a huge like character added onto your team, providing the multiple turn and defense supports. He orb changes. He's invincible in slot one. You just need to get at least 3 type orbs, which is not really a big deal. And the actual standby gauge to build up is so easy that when you get full power out, obviously he has the 77% heal, insane. He's also invincible slot one with guarding, damage reduction. Like he does like 20 to 24 mil ish attack stats that are to guarantee critting. He's super key sufficient, no issues about key at all. He's just an absolute incredible unit all around. I only think the downside is obviously like full power. In very rare situations, I think you can get full power out turn 5. But most of
Mhm.
the time, he's like a turn 7, even turn 9 character. And all these fights last very, very short if you have like the better units in the game to run with this guy. So there are situations where, oh, you get Oob out at the end of the fight, and that happens quite often. Like turn 5, okay, I can finally get Oob out turn 5, but now next turn and turn 7 is where I get Goku out, and it's like, oh, the fight's done on that turn or turn 6, right? So that's an issue. And on global, we don't know when Omega Shenron is going to come out with
Mhm.
the Omega Shenron fight, which is really the only fight where I've consistently gotten full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku out. So it almost feels like in most fights in the game, there's that whole part of his kit that is just like not there sometimes, right? And
Mhm.
I think in terms of like, if we're gonna rank the card, that definitely does kind of bring him down a little because his base form is good, but these fights hit so hard nowadays. The fact that he has to take an attack to then be able to take double digits does hurt as a
Right.
slot one defensive unit. Let's say you take a normal for 80k against Fusions and Moss with the very first attack, and you're like, okay, I took 80k, but now he's double digits. But then the
Yep.
super attack hits you, and then you take like 300 to 400k, and then suddenly you're under 20% HP, and you're like, oh, if we're thinking
Uh-oh.
about like these post worldwide celebration fights, that can happen.
Yeah.
And Goku's a character that wants a slightly more longer fight. That's a little weaker early on, just so that he could safely get that hit in. But once he's built up, and like let's say turn 3, Super Saiyan 4 Goku, like the first form, I think he could be quite strong defensively even. It's just that very first turn, he does start off a little weak, but these fights now are just turn 1, you're dead. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing with him. I also think that I don't like that you can't build him full dodge. I know, people are getting like full dodge builds suck, but like this Goku has built-in crits. Obviously you can give him additionals, but it's like if you could build him like with more dodge, at least like some dodge. He's a slot one defensive unit. Like you have to put him in slot one. So him having an extra defensive ability on top of that to help him in these fights could be very good, especially since he could dodge to get his full defensive ability. So you
Mhm.
could just straight up avoid that first attack that does a lot of damage, and then you're looking a lot better. But unfortunately, the standby you have to receive attacks. So that's
Right.
one gripe with
Yeah.
him. The second thing is I wish his leader skill was just a little more expansive, maybe even just to include the other like non full power Super Saiyan 4 characters on
Mm.
there, because he obviously really likes giant 8 power characters. So like on his team, we're gonna get the EZAs and heroes for the Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and the Super Saiyan 4 Broly that came out in
Mhm.
2020, but they don't fit his team. So
Right.
that's like, less Super Saiyan 4 partners on his own team that he could have benefited from. So I wish his leader skill was maybe a little more expansive, added a third category to make it on par with some of these other top tier leader skills. Um, but besides that, I think again he's very strong, does good damage, relatively good defensively, especially once you get the super attack effects off and his full defense passive. He could look very, very strong, and I think overall it's a very, very good release of Dokkan. So that's just
Oh yeah.
my comprehensive little details on what I thought about him.
Oh yeah. You'll have to see it. Ningen, as our resident global player, obviously I know you have had this guy only for a day now, basically. How are you
Yeah.
feeling about the man?
Oh, well, aside from the absolute horror show that was my summons for him, the Heroes Agenda funds have taken a big hit today, boys. Yeah, I did not get lucky with my summons at all. I mean, I did at least get him, but it took.
That's good.
What's the thing? What did it cost? Everything.
Right.
It was,
Right.
Yeah, so I managed to get him. I think one of the reasons why people like him so much, now that I've actually gotten to use him, I think one of the reasons why people like him so much is when I'm not suggesting this is really hard for this to happen, but like when everything falls into place the way it should, he is insane. Like when I did my 55% showcase that went up earlier today, I did just because I thought it'd be fun because it's GT, it's Omega. I did the Omega Red Zone, like the stage 7 of the GT bosses one. So not a hard one, but I like to do a fairly easy, long-ish event to show off the unit for the first time just to see what they can do. And literally the first turn, there were 6 attacks in slot 1. So I put him in slot 1. The first attack was a super, which he dodged with the level 5 dodge, and then took 5 normal attacks for double digits. So then on the next, so not only did he take no damage, but then on the next turn, standby ready to go. You stand by into Oob, and obviously he gets the damage reduction based on the number of type orbs, but he is also an orb changer. So if you get like, you don't even have to get insanely lucky. If you get like the good orb changing with him, he just becomes like actually invincible. Like if you can get 10 type orbs, he has 100% damage reduction. Even if you only get like 7 or 8 or 9, he's got guard and then like 70, 80, 90% damage reduction. So he's basically invincible, whilst also providing everybody else with extra defense, which then carries over to the next turn. And then the turn after that, you transform into full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. He has guard on the first turn. He basically gets guaranteed crits forever. Like his passive, they could have just cut out like 3 paragraphs, and his passive might as well just say guaranteed crit, because he gets guaranteed crit for 3 turns. And then after that, he gets guaranteed crit if you get 24 key. But he's getting like 4 key from int orbs and stuff. Like it's basically impossible to not get 24 key with him, pretty much.
And he has 7 key start of turn.
Yeah, so like he might as well just he might as well just say
Yeah.
guaranteed crit and just cut out a bunch of those lines, because you'd have to be incredibly unlucky to get 23 or less key. And then even if you do, he has a 70% chance to crit anyway. So yeah, he's an absolute monster. Obviously slot 1, very good defensively, especially with that first turn you transform, because he has guard and then has 50% damage reduction. So I've not only gotten to use him a few times. I've took him up against Fusion Zamasu. That video will be up a little bit after the podcast, and he did very well in that as well. But yeah, I agree with what Minato was saying. The downsides to him is that he absolutely can get caught out on turn 1, especially because that first attack he needs to get hit or dodge in order to get the to get that buff. And as we've seen quite often in some of these difficult events, like the number of times someone like Fusion Zamasu or like Red Zone Goku Black or whatever, they just super attack you in slot 1 as the first attack. And so then he does take a pretty significant amount of damage, or like Fusion Zamasu doing the AoE, mine being 55%, I think he took like 95k. And then obviously after that, he then gets the buff, so he gets a load more defense and it's a bit better. But the first attack is the one you kind of have to worry about. So I haven't had enough chance to play around with him on a bunch of different team builds. But I feel like potentially, as long as you're not against an AoE enemy, turn 1, depending on who you're running him with, you could always potentially put him in slot 2, so you get that first super attack off, because he gets the 4-turn stack on his 18 key super. Now, obviously, you do miss out on 20% damage reduction, but again, in these difficult events, it's so often that they super in slot 1 that if he gets to 18 key super first, he'll tank normals in slot 2, fine. And then from the next rotation, that's when you've got those stacks already starting to build up. And then you can put him in slot 1. But I feel like that is one of his only weaknesses. And most of the time, you probably would just take the risk. But yeah, if he gets hit with a slot 1 super, like straight away, he's going to take a lot of damage. But other than that,
Super podcast.
Maybe it's just
name drop.
I always have bad experiences putting him in slot 2 or 3, and it's like, oh, I put him there, and then he gets supered, and he's like, oh, I'm dead.
Yeah,
or like
it's unfortunate.
situations where if you're running him as a leader, and like let's say you're going Fusion Zamasu, and then I was like, oh, I get 2 in the first rotation, and then I die because I get AoE'd and hit for like 200k in the last slot.
Yeah. Yes, so, it is unfortunate. I think he definitely strikes me as one of those units that he's much better, especially because, again, like Minato said, his leader skill's not the best. He's one of those units that definitely is better when you only have one on the team, right? And you're just running him on someone else's leader skill. But again, to Minato's point, one of the things that is a little bit disappointing, because it's kind of like the suffering from success meme, like the teams that you're going to run him on are so powerful that like you might be lucky, you might see full power Goku come out and the enemy has like this much health left, because it's like the whole of the rest of your team is doing so much damage that by the time if you do get him out on turn 5, it's like the enemy's basically dead on turn 5. So it is a little bit of a shame, but obviously you know, the thing that I'm looking forward to, as Theo mentioned as well, Heroes coming out with the new Super Saiyan 4s. Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta and Broly are getting their easy A's. So this guy's about to have a whole lot of interesting options to be run with, which was why, even though for me, obviously, the Heroes agenda will always be pretty much top of the schedule, top of the priorities, I had to get this guy just for how well he's going to interact like with those other units. But yeah, I think he's really cool. I think he's really fun. Since nobody else did mention it, I'm someone who, for the most part, I'm a fan of the dub active skills. Obviously, there's some that are pretty bad, but his is very good. I know people were disappointed with the Super Saiyan 4s from the 7th year, where the Goku didn't really have the proper like deep voice, which obviously he does for this. Voice, so yeah, I think it's really cool. It was also funny seeing a bunch of Americans and other people on the timeline when it's like the small potatoes thing, and people being like, "Is he supposed to be saying small fry or something?" Whereas obviously it's obviously from like for us over here, that's been a saying like forever that I heard even when I was younger. So it is still funny to see Goku saying it to somebody though, where it's like, "You're just small potatoes," but yeah, it's pretty funny.
And then there's some edits of like Super Baby as a potato.
Yeah, what's the thing? It's like what you see, and there's like Golden Great Ape Baby, and then it's what Goku sees, and it was a bunch of potatoes. But yeah, so good memes. So good he's good. Shafting on the banner aside, he's very good, very fun. Good to use. It's one of those things. Bit of a shame. Going to focus on Heroes now, so he's going to be 55% till Saiyan Day. But yeah, he's very good. I'm very much enjoying using him. And as Minato said, do not underrate Oob, because even if you throw him on your team and you never see full power Goku, as you're getting to the very end, you're potentially going to get Oob out right near the end, where the enemy is obviously at their toughest, and Oob is almost invincible for that one turn and is giving everybody else a load of defense. So he's definitely very, very good.
And then, even worst case scenario, like if you're against Fusion Zamasu to get a lot of damage reduction, he guaranteed nullifies unarmed super. So like the Fusion Zamasu fight, the final phase, he guaranteed nullifies that super attack. So you don't even have to worry about the super attack there. I don't know if that still makes him get the attack raise for the turn. I assume it does, because he obviously does the super attack, but I guess that's not something I know.
Yeah, you would assume it does, because it's like when your character's super, right? Even if the enemy dodges or whatever, you still get your attack raise. So yeah. And also, I'm
just like thinking. Go on.
I was just going to say, because somebody else did say it in the chat as well, people like Goku still actually does do some very solid damage like before he becomes full power. Like his attack stats aren't necessarily insane, but when you couple it with everything else he does, Like his attack stats pre-transformation are still good. And then, of course, once he does transform, I think I managed to get the to be fair, it's kind of like the rare optimal turn, because I was doing Omega in that 55% showcase. He can lock your rotation. So the rotations got a bit messed up. And I ended up with both Gokus on the same rotation, but one of them had just transformed into full power. So he had every single link active because he's linked up with himself. And then the GT duo going into standby, GT Vegeta in slot 3, 80% extra attack. So at 55% level 1 links, the full power Super Saiyan 4 Goku did like an 18 million attack stat or something. So
yeah, that's nuts.
It's so much attack.
Yeah, he's so powerful once he goes full power. So yeah, very, very good. Very fun. So
I mean, full power himself, you could probably argue just the best unit in the game if you consider the heal and everything.
Yeah, like, the guard. Oh yeah, because the 77% heal, and then guard for one turn. That first turn where he goes full power, he's like almost invincible, like as well.
He's the goat. He's the goat.
So good when he goes full power. I mean, even my he's really, really strong, and I think some people may look at that and be like, "Oh, when he's in full power, that's why he's the best in the game." It's like, well, not really. I feel like I've seen a lot less of those like comparisons now. But a lot of it I saw when he came out was like that. And even I was kind of like, that's a good argument. But I really like him a lot, and I remember you were talking about how you took him to Omega, and it's like, oh, he dodged the first super, then you took 5 normals. I'm like, man, imagine if you could do that against Fusions and Masu all the time. But unfortunately, you can't do full dodge. So, I just love dodge.
I do think it's interesting that they designed his passive to be that he can dodge to get the buff, but then his standbys, he has to get hit. Because it's like you read his passive first and you think, oh, cool, so dodge would be kind of good for him. And then you read his standby and it's like, oh, actually, no, it's not. And shout out to the memes. I know we mentioned it earlier, but shout out to the guy. I saw a screenshot from JP back when he came out. And I know some people have been doing it now on Global, but shout out to the guy that has his LR full power Goku at 99% because he refuses to give him the free level 5 dodge. So he has 0 dodge in the hidden potential. Because, I mean, that's the thing, right? People already, when he first came out on JP, people already saying, like, he's getting attacked 5 times and then he dodges one of them. So then you don't get the standby on the next turn.
Happened to me once.
Which is super annoying. Like,
I don't blame people for doing that in that regard. I mean, I don't know. That's like that. That's always an issue when units have something that, like, I don't want to say goes against their design, because I suppose the only problem in this case is just the fact that he's int, right? And that's the only reason why he, like, obviously if he was SDR, that wouldn't be the problem for the level 5 dodge, but yeah. I don't know why they like don't think of that sort of stuff, or maybe they do and they just don't care. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so there's got to be, you'd have to think, there's got to be a reason why they made him int as opposed to any of the other typings, but yeah,
I mean,
that 3 level 5 dodge is weird.
Was there an int Super Saiyan 4 Goku before?
No.
That's why.
I mean, that's probably why, but still.
And also shout out to all those mad lads from the, it is one of the few things that is, where global foresight can still be kind of useful. So shout out to all the mad lads out there who did the same thing that I did and bought the 5 copies of the anniversary login Super Saiyan 4 Goku with the anniversary coins during the global anniversary, so you could use them as Kais for this guy.
I mean, oh my, Ningen, you have like 6 billion Kais, bro. Don't even anymore.
Yeah, but why not?
For free-to-play players, sure, I get it, but you're just Ningen moment, man.
It's that meme of the guy in the swimming pool pouring the bottle of water on his head. It's like, I need these few extra XA levels. I don't want to spend my thousands of Kais,
I mean, that's literally like
you just want a collection of Kais.
A collection. Exactly. I mean, that's literally like that the classic gaming meme of it's like you save all of your
best items and then never use them.
Get on a fight, right? And you don't even use them on the final fight. Yeah.
I don't know if this will show. Can I show this on the? Will it show up on the screen? I don't know how close I can get this to my camera, if it will focus or not, but I don't think it will.
How many Kais, yeah?
But yeah, that is 1,109 Elder Kais.
Minato was being facetious.
And then I have...
you're being serious.
1,109, and I have 100 of each of the type Kais as well.
Oh my gosh. So. I have like 200, and I thought I had a lot. Oh my god!
But that's why now I do
crazy.
use them like frivolously, because like for example, when a new Prime Battle LR comes out, I'll just farm them once and put 10 guys in them, because it's like it's one of those things. I put in the hard graft back in the day where I Dokkan responsibly, whereas so now I don't have to.
He said I can reap the rewards now. Now we're cooking, baby. I got you. Yeah, no, it's very exciting to see everybody so hyped about him, because like, you know, whenever it's a Super Saiyan 4 unit, I feel like people are always excited about it. It's just one of those characters or transformations that I swear there's not a single person who's not at least like, you know, happy that there's a new card of it in the game. So it's always really exciting to see.
It was very cool, like a lot of seeing everybody in the community hyped for it, because obviously it's often the case with Global where when the stuff comes out that's, you know, 3 and 4 months old on JP, people still get hyped, but there's always that little bit of like, you see people even today or yesterday, people saying like, oh, I don't know if I really want to summon for Goku because people on JP are saying he's not as great now as like when he first came out, and it's like that you kind of but you kind of you have that little bit of like a sort of downer sort of view on it, but people getting really hyped for him is really cool. And I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I feel like it does unite a lot of people in the fandom. Like I have said many times, and I'm sure we'll say many times again, that I do not like GT apart from some of the things from it, and one of those things is Super Saiyan 4. I think Super Saiyan 4 is awesome as a form. So even though I don't like JP, bring on all the Super Saiyan 4s, right? So
yes, sir.
People get very excited for this guy, and of course, as we've already said, ties into Heroes, more Super Saiyan 4s coming. So yeah, it's cool to see people excited for this guy. Absolutely.
Well, unfortunately, there is another individual that came out with this guy that people are not as excited for. Of course, the other unit that came out with this man is the boy Tech Baby. Of course, him being the sidebender unit.
So unhype, I didn't even get the card art to put up on the screen. I was going to say, let's just let Minato tell us how bad he is, and I didn't even bring up the card art. So
he's so annoying, because it's like, oh, when are we gonna get a baby again? Never. We're not gonna get another baby named unit. Like, come on.
Yeah,
he's like,
no,
when there's a pure Hybrid Saiyan enemy, you get crit. When there's a pure Hybrid Saiyan enemy, you get extra attack. It's like, you know, that first off, you're never gonna drop those fights. Like at this point, we're like gonna be 2 years in, no fights like that. And then secondly, it's like if they designed this unit as like a mega debuffer, and then it's like they released that Vegeta Blue stage stirring worldwide. It's like, okay, use him versus that Vegeta Blue stage, and he can cook. But no, he sucks. He's terrible. Like, what was the point of using him? He's not like terrible, but he's bad. It's like you're not gonna get use out of him really at all in most situations. And it's like the only time that I used this unit was when Super Baby 2's EZA came out, the LR, and then I'm like, okay, well, I could use him as a link battery.
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, as a floating option. Oh, he's okay. But he's like not providing anything to the team. Like, what does he do? It's like I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit a 6 mil attack stat, and then I'm gonna get like 500k defense at most sometimes, and that's it. And it's like, well, you suck. So the end.
He is not that guy, unfortunately. I know. I'm gonna keep it 100% honest with you, bro. I pulled him and didn't pull Forku in that initial like crazy shaft that I had on Goku's banner. Baby ain't even awakened. He's still an SSR sitting in my box.
Sometimes when I pull like banner units, I didn't finish the banner. I forget to awaken them too. If I just
well, I pulled because I didn't pull him when Kale first came out. I pulled Tech Frost on a banner like 2 banners ago or something, and I only just awakened him and put him on my link level team. But I went. I didn't mention it on the stream. We were talking about it before we started, and obviously those of you in the chat that were there this morning when I did my summons, it took me 1,200 stones to get Goku, and I did not get a copy of Baby, so
yikes.
Not I'm fine with
good
that,
for you.
I guess that's maybe a good thing. I don't know. Like it's so weird.
300 views.
True. It's so weird, bro, because it's like I feel like a lot of the time with those banner units, at least in terms of awakening them, if you don't like. If it's a unit that doesn't immediately like jump out as like, holy cow, this unit is really good, or they have some like really good use for, you know, the content in the game, I feel like a lot of the time they just kind of get thrown by the wayside, which is kind of unfortunate.
to build these banner units as if they're main units, and it's like, no, you should build them as supporting units.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. If Baby
Yeah.
gave some support,
Additions to
he
the
could be
team.
good, but he's just so
Yeah.
restricted
Like-
as well, right? Like he gets all of his stuff from fighting pure or hybrid Saiyans, which we don't have the majority difficult content for.
Right.
And then he's not supporting, so it's like, what are you using him for, really? Which is
Nothing.
A bit of a shame.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really
It's like
unfortunate.
no defensive pick on characters is like really like just annoying nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Like characters need some sort of defensive tech.
Yeah.
So
Defensive. Well, let's get that garbage unit out of our minds here. Of course, besides Baby, right? The other big announcement that Global got in the news for the celebration was, of course, that Beerus is finally going to be coming to Global for his EZA. A lot of people really like this EZA. I know on JP, this guy was a bit of a shock because I think at the time, if I'm remembering this correctly, I could definitely be wrong on this, but I'm remembering like at the time when he came out on JP, it was a period where I feel like the EZAs were kind of missing quite a bit. And when the boy got his EZA and he was like pretty cracked, everybody was like, "Wait, he's good?" And he definitely needed to be good because I remember even on release, he wasn't necessarily the greatest. I don't think he was like super crazy or anything like that, even when he came out. So it's really nice to see that his EZA is actually, very good, especially considering that I believe, at least, correct me if I'm wrong, was the previous, at least on Global, right? The previous Dokkan Fest that's not an LR would have been It's Goku Black, right? Is that correct on Global? I think, right? Is he not the previous one? Yeah.
T1 is in Global.
Yeah. So after that unfortunate circumstance for Global players, it's nice that at least it'll be a good unit that's a good Dokkan Fest EZA. So that's pretty nice. But you boys, I have like barely heard. I remember when he first came out, I was hearing people say he was pretty good, and now I haven't really heard people talk about him. So Ningen, are you excited for this guy? What do you think? Have you tried him out at all in JP?
I was going to say, like, for this topic, obviously, I will, given that sort of what you've said, I will probably defer most of this to Minato because I didn't really see, like, I didn't watch any showcases at that time when his EZA came out. I don't know what was going on at Global at the time, but I obviously saw what people were saying on Twitter that his EZA was really good. So yeah, I can't even off the top of my head remember what he does. So obviously Minato, as somebody who has used him, you can let us know. All I know is that people said he was good, so I'm excited because, like you said, when he came out, he was pretty good. It's just he's kind of always suffered from that thing where it's like he leads Realm of Gods, but then all the best units on that team were always like Goku and Vegeta units that he doesn't necessarily link super well with. So he was a cool unit, but he never really got a huge amount of use. Although shout out to him, also shout out to the boy Toon because it was a collab. But his banner, funnily enough, considering who it is, his banner was the first banner I ever got a Whis animation on. So shout out to Physical Beerus. But yeah, Minato, cool. Let us know. Let us know about this man or this cat, I should say.
Yeah,
this cat, I think true.
He's actually really good. Funny enough, I think he's gotten better, a lot better than he was when he initially released. So obviously when he released, he was good, but he didn't really have like a place. His partners are kind of a little weird. Like LR Beerus is good, but I wouldn't say they're like anything crazy as an EZA, right? Even though they came out this year, I think they can still cook a little though, for sure, right? They have the high chance to dodge. Just having to take that first attack, I can't speak, is a little annoying. But the main draw that they added to this character is that they gave him up to 70% damage reduction, but you just have to get 7 key spheres. Now, the issue is that, it could be difficult to get 7 key spheres from a character that usually wouldn't Rainbow Orb change. But they did also add a Rainbow Orb changing to his Realm of Gods category enemy restriction. Obviously, when he came out in JP, that was before Worldwide. But now, post-Worldwide, we have tons of Realm of Gods enemies that are also int type, which this guy is physical. So there's Fusion Zamasu, there's Rose Goku Black. There's the Goku Black and Zamasu. Even like some of these like Divine Wrath events, like the Tech Fusion Zamasu and stuff like that, where this Beerus could get the Rainbow Orb changing and in turn get his full 70% reduction before he attacks. And then he does really good damage. And even against Realm of God's enemies, he's always super effective. And his defensive stat can get really, really high to where he could eat these super attacks very, very commonly, especially once he has the 70% reduction up. So overall, I think they did a really, really good job with this guy's EZA. I just think that we really want for him to really shine. We want him to get a new partner because in turn, even though like LR Beerus and Whis when he released, they're pretty nice. Right now, these new stages, they don't really cook that well. So like his best partner is still right now, like probably like Physical God Goku or like STR Whis. But like if STR Whis gets an easy anytime soon, or something like that, or even get like a Whis Dokkan Fest or something, that would be really, really helpful and interesting for this Beerus character. And I think that would be pretty good for him. So hopefully something like that does happen. I like him though. I think they did a really, really good job with EZA, and I think that even now people still don't really talk about him or understand how good he is. And I think people will be surprised by how much damage he can put up as well, especially on the active skill turn. It's very, very insane. They did a good job for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad Global is finally getting him. It's like I said, it's nice to have a good EZA, especially after all the worldwide shenanigans. So
yeah,
that is pretty high for Global.
They did their job for sure with this one.
Yes,
I have fun using him whenever I do.
Yeah, and I think the other nice thing about him is you kind of mentioned this before, where it's like the whole thing of, well, the unfortunate thing about him is that obviously he's mainly a Realm of Gods unit, and obviously most of the characters that are the units you'd be running on Realm of Gods are Saiyans, right? So they're not necessarily like, as compatible with him. But obviously a huge benefit of him having an EZA, him having a good EZA rather, excuse me, is of course the fact that at least, right, at the very least, if you are running him, on a team with a bunch of Saiyans, at least not only will it be a little bit easier for Beerus to kind of hold his own to some, degree, but obviously then, if in the future he gets some type of, even better like team to run for him, then obviously he'll be pretty good on it. So, yeah, definitely very, very excited about Beerus. I'll definitely be doing that. I don't always, because y'all know I main JP. I might actually do that EZA because I don't always do the EZAs on Global and kind of just save them for like later to, just get stones from them. But that one might have to be a flayed. So definitely very, very excited about that. But yeah. In terms of Global, though, the last little thing that we actually have to talk about is Global just got some brand new events. Well, I guess brand new to Global specifically, but of course, right? Global got the brand new Boss Rush, right, which is a couple of extra stones. But I think the big one that obviously is more so what people would be mentioning is the what is that? What is his name? That's what I'm struggling to think of his name. It's the new GT nuking event.
JP. And JP was Don Key, and then I think Global it's like Don Kia or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah. Like the car company?
Yeah, Don Kia or something.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, either way, obviously Global is getting this event. This is a pretty good amount of stones for Global players as well. It gives a pretty decent amount. Obviously, if you've played some of the previous nuking events, you probably know how this works. But Ningen, have you gotten a chance to try this event yet?
Yeah, I did. The video went up, I think, 2 hours ago. I did it with the good old-fashioned, the same unit that I actually beat the punching bag event the first time, which was the physical GT Super Saiyan Goku. You just build a team of like orb changers, you take the nuke leaders and hope you get the good rotations, good orb changing, and then you hit them for the big nuke. So the thing that I would say is good compared to the punching bag thing is you do get unlimited attempts rather than the stupid punching bag thing being 3 times a day. But outside of that, it basically just is the punching bag event, right? So it's the GT Heroes is the special category for this week. They're going to add a new stage each week, and you can get some rewards from that. I tried to include a couple of different runs in my video using a couple of different characters. So I did one with the STR GT duo from the anniversary, one with Tech Full Power Super Saiyan 4 Goku. So like as long as you're running the nuke leaders and some orb changers, there's not like it's not like you have to have one specific unit to be able to do it, which is good. So should be pretty straightforward. But yeah, decent little event just to get some extra stones. If you've done the punching bag one already, then you kind of already know what you're getting in for. So
you got the data download on this event for sure. Yeah, I quite enjoyed this one on JP, and I think you hit the right on the nose there. I think the thing that makes this one so much better is that it's not limited attempts. It makes it not only much more enjoyable, obviously it makes it a lot easier to be able to get the rewards, but man, I am telling you, that stupid punching bag event only being, like a limited amount per day is just the most frustrating thing. So
dude, the number of times that I like would set it up to go in with the team that I knew I wanted to do it with, and then like Super Saiyan Goku's in slot 7. Like I literally had days where he was in slot 7 all 3 attempts in a row. So I was like, well, guess I'm trying again tomorrow.
Exactly. It's so frustrating. Like, I don't know. I think ironically enough, that could almost extend to some of those other events that have like the daily limited stuff, but of course, with that, right, it's a little bit more like frustrating because that's the type of event where you're really like, okay, I just want to play it and get my rewards and get out. Whereas Red Zone, at least, like you kind of want to play it a little bit more because it's, challenging. But yeah, so very, very good event. I thought that they did a good job with that. And I think in terms of global, that's pretty much it for global as of the moment. Obviously, it'll be interesting to see what becomes of Omega Shinron, because of course on JP he was the part 2, and I know a lot of people are thinking that he may not end up being the part 2 LR for this, so we'll have to see. That'll be interesting. I don't know when. Do you know, Ningen? Obviously you know the global schedule better than I do. Do you know like maybe where would they put him at that rate?
It's hard to say because I've seen some people speculating that he might come out like literally a few days before Heroes because of the date of when the global sales end. But I think last year they did a thing where the sales ended and then they dropped some weird filler, like just LR banner. So they might just do that again. I mean, obviously it's very confusing because this is why we said on the last episode that it makes the most sense for Trunks to come out first, because otherwise they're either dropping Goku and Omega before Heroes, which is kind of brutal, or they're splitting up Goku and Omega, which doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially when they're trying to sync the games, like pulling basically what is more essentially like the old school from years past global shenanigans of breaking up these things and moving characters to way later than they should be. It's not really something we would expect now that we know that the sync is at some point on the horizon. So yeah, honestly, I don't know. Now, the only thing I guess is like if they do squeeze him in between Goku and Heroes, it just makes the banner an even easier skip because Omega kind of sucks. Like in a vacuum, he's kind of okay, except you have to run him on one team that is not good. So he's just, when he's on that team and you see like screenshots of some of the stuff that he can do, he looks okay. It's just the fact that it's on a team that sucks, right? So if he is an easy skip. Like he's one of those units that even if there wasn't such a small gap, if he was going to come out before Heroes, like as somebody that obviously does want to summon a lot for Heroes, even as a content creator, I would probably just skip his banner because he's just not worth it. But and it's a carnival banner, so it's not going to have the pity coins. So it's just like Goku got the return. Global got the return of the STR Carnival Goku earlier than expected because obviously for JP, Omega's banner was when he first came back. So even if you were waiting on that banner because you wanted to get STR Carnival Goku or coin him or whatever, we've already had that opportunity now on Global. So I'm not sure where they'll fit it in, but I think regardless of where they fit it in at any point between now and the end of the year, probably still an easy skip whenever it does come out. So
100%.
there's been speculation about Kai Goku and Carnival Gohan returning on Omega's banner, like both of them, and I would say that's not unlikely. Um, but like, because Carnival Ssj4 Goku returned on Omega for the GP version,
Yeah.
he's already come back, so it's either like those characters, like it could be a situation where, let's say, anniversary same time, and then that's where the characters come back in global, and then Omega
Hmm.
just features Carnival Goku again, which would be kind of funny. But who knows how they're gonna move forward with that? It'll be interesting to see for sure how they're gonna
Yeah.
handle that. Because obviously for worldwide on JP, that's where those Carnival Lars for the anniversary came back.
Right.
But global, who knows? Maybe if it's again same time anniversary, but we'll see. But
Yeah.
if it's like if Omega is this month, it is definitely an easy skip. But another thing to
Yeah.
consider is that if Omega is this month, then that means that whatever the Carnival LR banner in December is going to be, very likely might just be same time.
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense. And then it could be a situation where same time Carnival banner, same time New Year's, into same time anniversary,
Yeah.
and then like
That would
there's a
make
Dokkan
sense.
Fest,
Yeah.
and then same time Saiyan Day, and then a Dokkan Fest, and then Golden Week. It's like you could see the schedule like kind of moving.
Yeah.
That's if they want to do that.
Coming together. Yeah.
Who knows? I think what's probably gonna happen is that when the 14th those cells ends, we'll get some filler banner. And I think there's a chance maybe that filler banner is even a Dokkan Festival banner, and it's like, oh, God Goku returns on this filler banner
Hmm.
because God Goku hasn't returned on Global, and it's like,
Right.
okay, well, will he actually return? Unless they, I mean, they could do a shenanigan where they could push what's it called, Super Trunks back until March, and then they bring the tournament of
That's
power
true.
androids, where
That's
then
true.
they come back, God
Listen,
Goku's there,
they
and
can
then
just skip
they
Trunks
make
on global. He doesn't
and
need
they
to
make
come out.
yeah, there's like screwed Trunks, right?
Well, the
That'd
thing
be
is
really
as well,
weird.
because people
Just who
like
knows?
people remember, we talk about global shenanigans and things that have happened in the past, but like even last year for the 2022 schedule, they switched the release order of Pan and the Resurrection of F Blues for global
remember
compared
that.
to the order they released on JP. So, I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't swap the androids and Trunks.
True.
So,
It would just be very
True.
funny if Trunks comes out in March when he came out in like freaking August on JP.
Yeah, that would be kind of wild, honestly. But I mean, to be fair, right? I don't think there's many people who are fiending for Trunks.
There's some Super Trunks defenders out there, even though he sucks.
I mean, there's
He's
defenders for
a
every
loser.
unit. I mean,
I
you
mean,
know how many every new unit? I
hate
swear
Super
I see a
Trunks.
new Twitter account.
but I
that's
mean,
blah,
it's
blah,
because
blah.
it's because like Super Trunks is really good. It's just that Super Saiyan Trunks is not good. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's why he
yeah,
sucks,
yeah.
because Super Saiyan Trunks is what you see mostly. But I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get into that topic. I know
We'll
some
save that
people
for when he comes out on Global.
Yeah, we'll save that for when he comes out. I'm sure he will be getting a lot more slander once we actually get to discuss him on a podcast episode here. But of course, right? Moving on from global, JP also had some brand new releases. Of course, the monthly Dokkan Fest right before the Heroes Celebration. I'm really glad, for me personally, that this one was nothing that I was insanely interested in, because last year was Bardock, and Bardock's my favorite Dragon Ball character, so I got a little bit hook, line, and sinker into that one. But of course, we have the boys Gohan and Piccolo, obviously coming out on JP as well. The side banner unit being a brand new Nappa and Vegeta. This is a pretty cool release, I will say, because obviously the moment from the anime, right, is that, of course, right, it's like Piccolo's sacrifice to Gohan, right, when he jumps in front of Nappa's blast to stop Gohan from taking the hit. And obviously, up until now, the only card that we had of this, correct me if I'm wrong, the both of you, but the only card we had of this was the World Tournament LR. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Which is kind of wild, honestly, because of course it's such a big moment in Dragon Ball Z, right? Obviously, not only is it just a big moment of development for Piccolo's character, but obviously it's just like one of the big moments from the Saiyan saga, right? From the fight with the Saiyans. So it's kind of crazy that it has not gotten more representation out of that super old, free-to-play LR from World Tournament. So I think It's definitely a pretty cool release, right? I think it works super well as like a just a TUR Dokkan Fest. I think they did a very good job on it on that front. Obviously, it's pretty cool that of course, it's Piccolo and Gohan attacking together, and then of course it changes into just Gohan. So that's obviously pretty cool, and of course fits with the scene. But I think I have to mention it, bro. The animation that they did for the actual like Piccolo taking the hit. Oh man, they cooked, bro. I've been extremely honestly like,
Yeah.
and of course I'm very nitpicky and I'm a huge stickler for the animations, right? So like if there's like a small thing wrong, I'll be like, take me off my high horse already. But you know, for a lot of these monthly Dokkan Fests, I've been kind of let down and disappointed by a lot of their animations. They've either just been like all right or straight up bad. GGL Kale. Anyway, these guys though, right? I thought that Piccolo and Gohan's actual super attacks were pretty good, and the actual Big Boy revival animation was super well done. My jaw dropped when I watched it for the first time. I was like, wow, they straight cooked with this one. They did such a good job. Obviously, it looks like that in the anime too, but it also kind of gives you a little bit of the feeling of that sort of manga influence with all the black and white colors. But of course, that is how it is in the anime, but it definitely kind of looks like that too. So I think on that regard, they did a very good job with his animations. But in terms of the kit, Minato, I'm gonna let you take this one away because I've been hearing some very interesting things about this guy.
So I do want to say, like, you said Bardock was your favorite character. Gohan and Piccolo are like my favorite characters in the series. So I was kind of like this, like, I got him at like 450 stones, and I'm like,
Oh, nice.
I really like Gohan and Piccolo. So I ended up using the rest of my stones. I used about a total of like 800. I still only got the one copy, but still, they actually are in game. There's actually been some misconceptions about how this unit is. Like, just confused about this character. How their damage reduction works is
there you go.
when they're receiving an attack in the first or second slot and your HP is above 70% or more, they get 40% damage reduction for the rest of the turn. It's not something that where they have to take an attack and then they get the reduction. If they fall under 70% after taking attacks, they lose it. No, they just have to take one attack, or they have to receive one attack is a better way to say it. Which it activates before they actually receive the hit. As long as they're above 70%, that does activate, which is good. But this unit is not necessarily going to be a slot 1 unit because they get so much defense on super attacks. So there's situations where if your slot 1 unit gets super attacked instantly and you fall under 70% HP, when you get to this character, they don't have their damage reduction. And, there's situations where that could be, hurtful to them because, at this point, characters, there's so many AoE fights, right? And you want to rely on having that extra reduction. Once they super attack, though, they're pretty good defensively, I would say. They can get like 800k even defense depending on the links you have active. Really, really good. Lots of support going on with them. If you're floating them, they can give for 3 turns, they give 1 key and 30% attack and defense to superclass allies. So they have like off rotation support as a floater. So if you're floating 2 of them, your entire team is getting basically off rotation 2 key and 60% attack and defense support, given its full superclass. And then Master and Student Bond, which is their team, and Insane Saga, like there's a lot of good units on there that we've been getting recently. LR Future Gohan, Sword of Hope Trunks, Orange Piccolo is a good unit. Even Ultimate Gohan, he could, I think, really look nice here because there's so much key support going on, right? There's just a lot of good bottom mass and Sapa units that have been releasing that really get pushed far from this character, the Gohan and Piccolo. The issue is that you lose the damage reduction, so it's kind of like an exchange where you get more support, but then they become really squishy and basically get one shot. They do get super attacked. The revive condition, very easy to get off, I think. Under 70% HP, just at any point in the fight, is just really, really easy. and you recover back 70% HP and exchange it to the Gohan. Which, when you get that Gohan out, dude, if you have a Goku on the team, he guaranteed dodges. He's doing like
That's
a
good.
freaking like 20, 23, something like that in that range, million attack stat with guaranteed critting. He's still supporting super class allies with 2 key. And then even after that turn, he still has a high chance to dodge with Goku. He still has the super effective against all types. And he still looks pretty good defensively. I mean, he has a massive raise of attack and defense on his super attack effect. So his defense can get really, really high still. Very insane character, but like that first turn of the Kid Gohan by himself. I think the biggest issue with him is the fact that he can lose that reduction mid-turn, which I find, like I don't think that was necessarily like something that was needed to add to his kit. But right now, Goku on like Bond Master and Disciple and Saiyan Saga, like if you're writing their own team, not really the best, obviously. There, I mean, you have to run like Goku and Piccolo, or like that free to play Gohan and Goku exchange unit from the Cooler movie.
Mhm.
That's really your best options for Goku's. And this character doesn't even link well with Goku's in the first place, so it's kind of odd. But if like they've been giving us a lot of Saiyan Saga, so like if it's a situation where we get New Year's Dokkan Festival Goku versus Vegeta, right, from the
Mhm.
Saiyan Saga, and then this Gohan you just throw on that team, that could be really, really good.
Yeah.
Um, but until that or something like that happens, I'm not sure about this Gohan under his own team. But who this Gohan I think really helps out is that 23rd World Tournament Goku, because he fits
Mm.
obviously that team. So like you throw this Gohan on there, you could very easily get that revive, and then 23rd World Tournament Goku basically like any turn you can get his full passive. Even like you get this Gohan turn 2, and then turn 2 you're under 70%. You can just revive from the start of the fight. And then when Gohan comes back, he has a guaranteed dodge, and then it's like that Goku has his full passive, and it gets very, very nasty. Um, so that's where I feel like that this Gohan and Piccolo are at their best on that 23rd team. And then in certain fights, you can use them as like a floating unit, providing that mega, mega support. But I think this
Right.
unit's good, especially compared to like, if we look at the androids, who I feel like really fell flat. Super Trunks, I feel like his base form is like a little weaker than it should be. I think this Gohan and Piccolo is really well balanced between their base and the post exchange revive form. And I think there's utility in having both of those forms that make them very useful in a lot of different difficult content. So I like them overall. If I'm gonna say, do I like them or not? I think they're good design, and I do have fun with using them. So overall, a good release, I think. So, thumbs up.
Minato, are you telling me that we both like a new unit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean, they did a good job with them. His
That's crazy.
animations, like you said too, are really, really good, and
Yep.
yeah. I guess one thing I see is that there's a lot of people saying like, "Oh, why this character is better than God Goku?" I would still say God Goku's better
Interesting.
because there's a whole debate between those two. But I think for sure, like this
Yeah, why
character is
those
like,
two? Why those
because
two?
I feel like I don't know, just people start talking about, oh, is God Goku better than this character or not? I would
Hmm,
say, in my personal rankings, I would have Gohan at 4 and God Goku at 3 in terms of like TURs. Dokkan has TURs, right? But
interesting.
I just think that they're similar in power overall. Or at least some people think so. I think God Goku is just kind of better, to be honest. But this character is still really good. I just seen a lot of debate about them on the timeline.
Gotcha. That's an interesting comparison. Is it? It's not something with their kits, is it? It just happens to be those two that
No,
people are
it's
comparing.
I think it just happens to be those two.
Huh.
Just because 'cause they're
Interesting.
kinda in terms like, their kit isn't really similarly designed. I think it's
Yeah,
just,
that's what I was
like
gonna say. I didn't think that they were.
it's like they're both really good TURs, and,
Gotcha.
I think the people just see them, like, in similar realms of power, which just makes sense to
Interesting.
me.
Interesting. Well, I know that I don't think I've seen a single soul, even on the Twitter timeline, talk about it. But do you have any thoughts on Vegeta and Nappa? Might as well mention them, I
Oh,
suppose, while we're
yeah.
here.
I mean, people don't really talk about them. I think they're good. They're kinda flying under the radar a little, but they are a pretty good band unit compared to especially, like, say, Frost or someone like that sucks, like Dr. Jerome Mew. This character, has utility in terms of them being able to guard. And then if you have them in the third slot, they get the 30% reduction, which makes them fairly tanky. So I think aging wise, they're going to be a really good floating unit. But it would have been nice, like for extreme class, if they even just gave a little bit of support, like 2 key extreme class allies would be really, really good. But they're very, very strong, and I think using them, they're gonna be able to age really well on the teams that they're on, which is nice to have like a nice aging, even just floating option of villains. So like like on a lot of these teams, like say Terrifying Conquerors in like a year, you're like, okay, who do I put as my 7th option or my 6th option? This Terrifying Conquerors team. You can just throw this unit on there, who's a very good floating unit, and you're like, okay, we're cooking, right? So I like it. I mean, preferably maybe their damage reduction could have been in slot 1 too, but like that's just like if I'm asking for a little extra. I think overall they can cook, and that's good. That's good. Maybe if they had better link set, but that's why I'm like, if they had key support, that'd be interesting. But that's
because it's interesting from the global perspective. Obviously, we very recently just got Turles, and it's interesting to see that they obviously would be a pretty good unit to run on his team. But I think the weird thing about their design, like you said, is them having some support would be really cool, because they're designed to go in slot 3, but they're not like a support unit. So, but I mean, they're interesting. But yeah, I haven't seen people really saying much about them. I think they're kind of one of those units that fly under the radar a little bit, because they're okay, or like you could even say they're at the bare minimum level of like kind of good. But that's it, and that's all they are.
I think
so they're not
pretty good for a banner unit, though. Honestly.
Yeah, for a banner unit, especially. Yeah, true. But it's kind of like what you said about Tech Baby. It's like their design is kind of like almost like they're a main unit, because even if they are designed to be a floater, all they're really doing is they do some damage and they have some alright defense. But obviously, the way a lot of people like to build teams is your third slot units are your like floating supports and stuff, right? Or your utility characters. But I thought they seemed pretty cool, like when we first saw their details. But
I don't know. Someone in chat said your mic is really loud. I don't know, but yeah, I think they seem pretty cool. I would also say that another issue is obviously like most people. Well, some people are saying they're fine, so whatever. Most people are global players in our community. I feel like so. It's like Super Saiyan 4 Goku's out, and it's like, who cares about Vegeta, Nappa, and GP?
Yeah, that's fair.
So that's one other thing to consider.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, obviously, it's also like, I think it's also when it comes to like a character going under the radar, it's also like character choice, right? Obviously, if these guys were like, Ultra Instinct Goku or something like that, people would obviously care a lot more about them. But they're just a side banner unit with.
If they're UI Goku, I would say they suck.
I know, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
Plus, it's another one of those weird examples of them. Like, I mean, obviously, we just had it with Goku and Baby. It's another one of those weird examples of them bringing out an extreme class unit as the side banner unit for a super class character. So they're not like particularly great on the team for Piccolo and Gohan. Like, obviously, they fit under their leader skill because of Saiyan Saga, but they're not like a unit that you instantly think, if you pull both, it's like, oh great, I can run them on their team, because you just probably wouldn't for the most part, right? So
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that they're good, because I actually had no idea. I was kind of waiting for the Minato lowdown, to be honest with you. I don't even think I ended up like reading their kit. Like, I looked at Gohan and Piccolo, but they ended up escaping me. So, well, that is good, because obviously, funny enough, wasn't I just saying before that obviously the banner units, right, a lot of the time, they end up like, I feel like I just like don't care about them eventually. Well, they're good. Now I have a unit to look forward to pulling unfeatured.
I mean, if you get them unfeatured, it's like, that's good. I think overall. Yeah. So thumbs up.
That's good. As well, with both of these guys, they also, just something worth mentioning, brought back the medal missions again. So I think it's pretty safe to say, right, that they are going to continue doing this forward, where you use these certain categories, do these specific missions, and then you can get extra medals. So now you don't have to farm the 77 11 run gauntlet awaken your brand new Dokkan Fest character. So I hope that they keep doing this. I hope for Global that it like starts and continues to be a thing from the celebration. Well, I guess technically not the celebration that this started, because Global got that and then it hasn't gotten it after. But I guess you would say the celebration after that one, right? I hope that Global also keeps getting, because it's such a nice change. And not to mention, this was also something that I know a lot of people really wanted as kind of like an update or something for Dokkan, where a lot of people were like, yeah, it kind of stinks that you got to run the event 11 times. It would be nice if there's a way to shorten it. So I think it's a good compromise, because it's like, it's not like, oh, like a double stamina thing, and then you get double the amount of medals. Like some people were like speculating that maybe that would end up being the case, but I feel like this is a good compromise where it's still a decent amount of runs, but it's still very much so shorter. So, yeah, I think it's a very good change, and I hope that they keep doing it for sure. Did you have something else to say before we talk about the next?
No, that's it.
I saw you doing the funny little hand thing, so I.
Oh, no.
whenever you do that gesture, I'm like, oh, he's got something to say. All right, hold on.
That's funny.
I got you. I got the data download on you. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So, ironically enough, with Nappa and Vegeta being a banner unit, right? It only makes sense that, of course, the EZA coming with this celebration would be AGL, LR, Nappa, and Vegeta. Now, obviously, we do not have this kit yet because, of course, this was one of those things that was just announced to be upcoming in the news, and we don't know what they actually do yet. However, obviously, this is a unit that, well, I think a lot of people are hoping that they're good. I know me personally, I'm hoping that they're good. They really weren't even good when they came out. I remember even a lot of people saying when they came out that they were kind of terrible, to be 100% frank with you.
People were wrong. He was okay.
Wrong. Damn. Tell me why. Give me the lowdown. Why is that the case?
Well, I mean, to get turn 3 guarantee dodge is not bad.
Yeah, but like, is that it?
Well, I mean, they had AoE for the World Tournament, which helped me personally, and they weren't bad. They had the revive, or not really a revive, almost a revive, but like they had that heal to Vegeta. I think it was very useful. I think people just like are losers and they don't know how to read units.
Well, I mean, we are Dragon Ball fans, so we don't know how to read. I'm sorry, that runs in our blood.
I missed a login at JP.
Wow,
that's crazy.
This guy.
That's crazy.
Fake
He's a fake fan
over here.
Fake fan. Get off the podcast.
I'm so fake. No, that means I missed out on 3 of the stones from the
Oh, from the paid login?
Yeah, LOL.
I thought that accumulated. I thought that like they just gave it to you.
You have it for a set amount of days.
Right.
So it's like, if you don't log in for all those days, guess what? You missed 3 stones.
Terrible.
Okay.
Oh well.
This is crazy. Regardless, though, I know a lot of people are excited for their EZA. Do you boys have any guesses as to what they might end up doing? What the kit will look like?
I mean, no, not really. It's maybe what they should do is they should give him dodge already built into his kit, and then it's like that would be interesting. Where it's like, oh, he has a high chance to dodge normally, so you can get that full attack passive out sometimes. And it's like, okay, on the active skill turn, you get the guaranteed dodge, even though you lose the attack passive. I think that would be, that's fair. I think that's a fair adjustment for him. Maybe even give him some, like, additional chance for, like, even World Tournament or something. I don't know. It's very weird what they are going to do for this Nappa and Vegeta. Funny enough, I think they could change the conditions for the exchange because it's not an active skill. Right.
Yeah, it is. It is.
The exchange is not inactive, so they could change that. So I'm not sure if they would. What if it's like just under 50% HP at any point of the fight? You can exchange with Vegeta. That would be interesting. And what if it's like the active skill could be used from turn? No, actually, they can't change the active conditions. Never mind.
Yeah, they can't. Yeah.
I'm not sure what they would do with this guy. Maybe against like when facing one enemy, he gets like an extra 3 key or something to help him hit the 24 key, the 18 key super more or something, right? We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Ningen, you got any thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, it's kind of the same sort of thing, because I think what it comes down to is it depends what it is they want the unit to do, or like what they want them to be for. Because I think they were kind of underwhelming on release, depending on what it was you wanted them for. Because like as another LR with an AoE for the World Tournament, they obviously could be really useful. But I mean, I guess the problem is when they came out as well, there wasn't exactly like the levels of power creep that we saw with things like the red zone and stuff like that. So obviously by the time events like that came out, they were unrunnable at that point, essentially. Because I remember people using them like, it was the 7th anniversary, right, when the Part 2 LR Great Ape Vegeta came out. And like they're one of his best link partners. We got Raditz with like the Saiyan Saga team, but it was like they're one of the only units that you could run that kind of linked up with some of those guys, but they just weren't really runnable anymore. But yeah, I think what Minato said is pretty spot on, right? Give him a chance to dodge. It's kind of like the Goten and Trunks thing, the Dokkan Fest, where obviously this is a unit that gets buffs from dodging, but can only dodge as part of their kit, like on the active skill turn. So give them a way to get that on other turns as well. And then Minato even said the same thing I was going to say, give them some kind of chance to additional, because already pre-EZA, there's definitely things about their kit that are really good. Like their 18 key greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, and the 12 key is just a normal raise. So obviously if they have a chance to do an additional, you can then end up getting that and the hidden potential to get like a triple super turn, and then their defense can look pretty decent after that. And then obviously for the World Tournament, that's going to help you out if they have built-in chance to additional, so you could end up getting their 12 key, then getting an additional from their passive, and just obviously wiping. I mean, obviously there are more optimal World Tournament strategies, but anything that makes World Tournament units a bit better for if you are missing out on units like Piccolo Jr. and stuff like that, is obviously helpful for everyone. So I know I've seen all the memes for some reason. Some people are really excited about this unit EZA. But I mean, obviously Saiyan Saga is always needed more buffs. You know, we're still waiting on that, as Minato mentioned, whether we get it for New Year's or whatever, getting a Dokkan Fest. We still don't have like a good Gallic Gun Vegeta unit, because we got the Great Ape Vegeta to go opposite the Kaioken Goku for that anniversary. So I do think a dual Dokkan Fest of Goku and the Vegeta would be really cool, and obviously that would be massive buffs for Saiyan Saga as well. So hopefully these guys are good. It goes back to what we said earlier, right? We never want the units to be bad, so hopefully they will be good. Because even that Tech Great Ape Vegeta, he's obviously not great, but he can kind of still be runnable in some situations. So having these guys be good and be his, obviously they're still like his best link partner, would obviously be quite useful, right? So yeah, hopefully they will be good, but we shall have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping that they're pretty good. I mean, obviously, like with EZAs, I feel like it's weird because it's like it's almost like with EZAs, I feel like the unit needs to be even better, because obviously this is kind of like their final chance to be good. Where obviously, you know, with the unit just coming out, it's like, oh well, you know, they could still get an EZA and be good down the line. So hopefully, I mean, funny enough with us talking about that, you know, with talking about Vegeta and Nappa earlier, obviously it will be pretty cool to run a rotation of them and the tech, you know, them, and then obviously the LR as well. So like a triple rotation of all the Saiyan Saga Vegetas would be pretty cool. But yeah, so we'll have to see when that ends up coming out. Obviously, by the next podcast, I think we should have that, right? I don't recall the date that they're coming out. Or that they're being,
I'm not sure for JP.
Yeah, so they come out the 7th. Let me double check that.
Yeah. So
okay, yeah, then we will definitely be able to talk about them by the next
then.
Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Their info should be out in like 2 days-ish time. 2 days or so.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to the final section of our episode today, of course, we just want to give you a quick reminder that if you have given any donations or super chats during the stream, we will be reading them out at the very end after our final segment here. So if you want to sneak any other in, right, to give us an old question, you can definitely do that before we get to the end of the stream. But of course, for our final major segment today, we have the trash takes, everybody's favorite section. I always see chat go crazy whenever we say trash takes time. So this time, obviously, with me being the host of this week's episode, I was in charge of picking the trash take. And I'm going to tell you, I saw this one first. And I was like, oh yeah, this one is the one I'm picking. And then I was like, but I don't want to just cop out and you just pick the first one I see. Let me at least read through all the options here. And I think this one was by far the best one. So, the trash take for today. It is a bit of an interesting take. As you can see here on the screen.
Oh boy.
Rotations and slots don't matter. Your unit should be good enough to tank before and after attacks. Now, I do want to mention as well, we did reach out to this individual for a comment, right, as we usually do, to try and get some more context on what they're trying to say. And they did not respond, unfortunately. Now, obviously, you know, if you're commented on the trash take tweet, it's an automatic. We can use your trash take on the episode, but unfortunately, there was no additional comment. So this is the only context we have. So I already know from the previous conversation we had that Ningen has something to say about this one. So I'll let him go first, and then Minato, you can say your piece on this one because I'm a very quick one with this. So Ningen. How are we feeling about this one?
Bro, let me let me compose myself here. I was gonna look for the tweet on my phone here to see if I could just read out the exact reply that I put, but it honestly doesn't matter because I saw this reply on the thread after I'd posted it. And obviously it wasn't my job to pick one, so I saw this one, and I thought this one was such a hot take, I had to reply to it, because I just, like... So, obviously we've talked about in the past, when people talk about, you know, how certain units should be better, or certain EZA should be better, because everybody, it's like almost like a meme at this point, right? That everybody wants every single unit to have like damage reduction and guard and all this other kind of stuff. So when I read this, the reply that I put on this tweet was like, someone out there will know. I think a lot of people will if you've seen it, but the reply that I put, I can't remember if it's Doom or Wolfenstein, one of the more recent games in those franchises. I can't remember which one it is, but when you pick your difficulty for the campaign at the beginning, if you pick the easiest difficulty, the icons are all like the main character that you play as, and the harder the difficulties get, I think the more like his face gets covered in blood and he looks like ragged and disheveled. If you pick the easiest difficulty, it's a picture of the character in a baby bonnet with a pacifier. And when I read this tweet, this is what you want the game to be, apparently, right? Because if you go into the game, so the way this is worded and the way obviously I interpret it without, you know, any extra context is what they're basically saying. The first part seems like it's a separate statement, but it's not, right? Obviously, when it comes to gameplay, rotations and slots are important, like where you put your units. But what he's basically saying is that units shouldn't be like, you know, this is a slot 2 unit, so you can't put them in slot 1. He's saying that every single unit should be able to tank in slot 1 before they attack. So then at that point, my obvious criticism of this take is like, well, then the game will be super, super easy. So it's like, what's the point of playing it at that point? Like, if you go into it, like, obviously some teams are that powerful when you're going into certain events. But like, if you take a team into an event and you literally cannot die, it's like, is the game fun at that point? Like... To a certain extent, yes, because there are games where being an OP god is like super fun. But like, if every single unit that's coming out, like say for example, say that was the state of the game right now, why would you summon for like Piccolo and Gohan? Because every unit you've already got like dominates every single event in the game anyway. So who cares? Now, obviously, that's not to say, like, you know, power creep should always be a thing and should always be chugging along and going crazy. But, like, the whole point is, as we've discussed many times, units have roles on the team. That's why we have characters like, for example, the EZA Rose that we talked about on the episode back when he came out. Like, he's not a slot 1 unit. He'll take a lot of damage from AoEs. His defense, even after supering, it can actually get quite high, but he's just not a unit that's made to take supers. He's a unit that's there to drop like ridiculous attack stats and do tons of damage, and that's what he does on the team. But if he was doing all of that, but then also like tanking supers in slot 1, he would just be like insanely OP. So yeah, this just really strikes me. I don't like, this is one of those ones where, as we say, when we get a take that I think is particularly trash or particularly hot, I should say, this guy understood the assignment, is what I'm saying. Because yeah, this one I just yeah, it would have been nice to try and get a bit more explanation to see if it really was, because I don't know if it is just this guy basically saying that the game should just be super easy, but yeah, I don't know. This is an L take for me, so I'll let one of you guys chime in. I'll put the poll in the chat as well for you guys watching live. If you are listening to this afterwards, make sure you come and check out a live episode if you can and take part in the segment. But yeah, I'll put the poll in the chat now for you guys, and one of you other fine gentlemen can take it away.
And by the way, for those of you listening on Spotify as well, there should also be a poll. I don't know where it is, to be honest with you, but it should be somewhere on your screen that there will be a poll for the trash take, so you can also vote on this as well.
If there's not a poll, Dokkan Assets owes you $1.
Yeah, then you can 100% like just tag me on Twitter and be like, "Dog, what are you doing?" Because I'm the one who's responsible for the Spotify. So that one's on me if that doesn't appear there. But Minato, do you want to take this, or should I go next? What do you think?
That's all I have to say.
Okay, understandable. Have a good day. So here's the thing, right? Two things about this. One, in regards to what Ningen said, right? I 100% agree with Ningen, because it's like, at that rate, like, of course you can't make every single unit the most cracked unit in the game. Otherwise, it's like, what's the point of, having different units and summoning for different things and all that type of thing, right? But at the same time, the thing that, like, is so weird to me is that I also agree with Ningen in the fact of, like, well, then that just makes the game not interesting at all. Like, you're telling me that you want every single unit in the game to be the same, assuming that this, like, take is obviously kind of referring to that. You're telling me that you want every unit to be designed basically like the exact same thing, that, they can all do anything in any slot. Like, this is just so boring. It takes away the whole point of all the units being interesting, right? Like, that's what makes the game so cool, is that you have all these different options for these characters that can do all these different things. And not to mention, right, it's cool to see sometimes how, Dokkan's like, translation from what happens in the anime to, how the unit works is really interesting. But, more over anything else, right, it's just like, it just makes the game more unique and more fun, and makes you want to summon for these characters because they do different things. Now, I kind of almost feel like that this is the type of thing where, like, maybe that isn't exactly what he meant, and he meant more so like, units should still be able to function, like, better in all roles. But at the same time, like, even reading it again, like, it's still the only thing that makes sense is that, if, all the characters, like, must be able to do everything, because otherwise they can't function in, they can't all do. You understand what I'm trying to say? Like, it just defeats the purpose of the whole video game.
I think I know what this person's actually trying to say.
Yeah, tell us.
Enlighten us.
It's something that I think I've heard Truth say sometimes, but not to the extent I think you guys are taking it, where there's these AoE fights now, and it's like, well, if your unit can't eat attacks before these AoE attacks hit you, then the unit kind of, in a sense, sucks. Truth doesn't like building his teams in terms of like, okay, this is the exact rotation I'm gonna run. He likes his teams to be flexible, where he could run different units in different slots if he has to, depending on the situation. So I think what this person's trying to say is they're trying to use that philosophy to make this argument. And I think this target is thinking about these AoE fights, which, being fair, all the hardest fights in the game since basically year 7 have had an AoE phase. Bro, like, the only one that didn't was basically Submax, but like Broly,
Right.
Sin, Omega, Fusion Zamasu, all the most tough fights have AoE attacks. So the best units in the game are ones that can handle these AoE attacks well, and doesn't matter which slot you place them in. So I think that's the argument that may be trying to be made there. Maybe that's giving the benefit of the doubt. But regardless, to me, it would make the game a more boring, if a lot more interesting in doing team building. I love doing team building. I love setting up rotations. I love thinking about, okay, this is how I want the team to go, right? And putting actual thought into it rather than just mindlessly throwing on a bunch of units on there. It's like, oh, I have 6 God Gokus on the team, right? I'm good, right?
W.
At that point, it's like, I mean, Annie would find that fun, for
I
example.
was
Like,
just gonna say.
but like, if it's like the same character, just like in like, okay, this character has this and maybe they support and stuff like that, or it's like they all tank before they attack, right? I mean, ideally that's good because like all characters are good, but I also want to say saying this doesn't necessarily also mean that they're saying every unit has to be the same at the same time, because of the fact that you could still have a unit that can tank before the attack but also be a distinctly different unit than
That's
another,
fair.
right? So I think that there's an argument with that to be made. But besides that, I would still say it's an L take because it kind of the with its basis of it, saying that rotations and slots don't matter is untrue, I think. And
Yeah, that
some
part
units
is
are going to be
definitely,
different, right? I mean, saying that units should be good enough to handle AoE attacks, sure, but you could also read it as every unit should be a slot 1 tank and eat super attacks slot 1 if they want. It's like, no, that's not the
right.
case.
Yeah, that's how I read
That's
it.
why
but-
that's why you need context to these
Yeah.
takes, right? Because you could read it one way and then someone else could read it another way. And the only reason I kind of feel like you could read it as the second way is because I believe I've heard Truth mention a similar thing before, and I'm assuming this is where this person is basing their take off. But who knows?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so make sure you guys know, if you are listening, of course, if you're one of the people,
gonna say that,
if you're one of the people who does post replies to that tweet that goes up every week asking for hot takes, make sure you keep an eye out for the fact that if we do want to pick yours, we will reach out to you to give any sort of clarification, and that can obviously help this discussion, maybe make your point come across a little bit clearer. Because I will say, actually, obviously I read it that certain way, I gave my take based on how I'd read it, but I do agree kind of with what Minato said, and funnily enough, the chat kind of does reflect that a little bit, because this actually started off, I thought it was going to be kind of funny. This was probably going to end up, potentially going to end up being one of the most one-sided polls, because it was at like 93% for L take, but after Minato's little section there, it has actually gotten quite a few more votes for W take, because there is definitely that other way of looking at it, because it is true that it sucks if all the toughest bosses are going to start getting AoE attacks, then it sucks when they're releasing new units that are just not good at taking AoEs. But of course, this comes back to the discussion that will continue for the end of time. They will quote our boy from that episode a couple of weeks ago of our boy Toon Rami. So
sure.
But yeah, like I do kind of agree. So like it's units being versatile, and the one thing I will actually say that kind of expand on pretty like what Minato was saying is one of the things that we don't want to see, that we've seen in the past, not so much recently, but like characters like, for example, LR Janemba, where if you get like a really bad starting rotation and you need to try and want to try and fix them, like you in difficult content, like you do not want to put him in slot 3 because he doesn't have guard. He only gets guard in slot 1 and 2, and then he only builds up in slot 2 and 3. So it's like you can get stuck in a situation where you can't float him because he could potentially get you killed. So if you kind of tie that back to this take, it's like he is a unit that is actually just not good in one of the specific slots in the rotation. So stuff like that we definitely don't want to see. And it's kind of one of those, you can kind of read it that way, where it's like if a unit just sucks if you put them in like slot 3 or even slot 2, like Vegeta and Trunks, not to say they suck, but Vegeta and Trunks later on into a difficult fight, like they lose so much extra defense if you're not putting them in slot 1, even if they're still having their guard passive up. It can be a sort of sketchy situation for them. So I can kind of see the more positive side of it. But yeah, my initial reaction as soon as I read it was like, oh, this guy just wants like, baby's first adventure game. Like none of the enemies could actually kill me, so it's fine. Like,
yeah, bro, it literally, when you were making that like example earlier of the difficulty thing, it reminds me of this infamous thing that they added in Fire Emblem, where in Fire Emblem, basically, like, you can play a couple of different ways. Like you can play it where your characters have like permadeath, where if they die, you know, like during a stage, they're just like dead forever. But you can also have it so that, you know, like if they die on that level, they like come back on the next level, basically. But they implemented a mode called Phoenix mode on a previous game where literally the turn after your character dies, they come back to life, which it's like, bro, what's the point of even playing the game at that point? Where's the challenge? So it was reminding me of that a little bit. I always like to use that as the funny easy mode example. But yeah, I don't know. It's still very interesting though. But that is definitely an interesting perspective from Minato. I definitely didn't think about it that way. You know, it also doesn't help, of course, when we're approaching this from the context of like, oh, it's a trash take. You know, your immediate knee-jerk reaction is to think, oh well, you know, it's going to be something I disagree with, basically, right?
Smart player.
We ask people for their hot takes, but I mean, we've like as we said before, right? We've had episodes in the past where we've all just very much agreed with the take, so it is always interesting to see. But yeah, there's been a couple of hiccups, technical difficulties on my end. I apologize for any of those. People in chat saying there's been a few hiccups in the stream and stuff. Weather's not great here, and it's we're reaching that time in the UK where it's going to be the weekend where everyone's having firework displays and stuff. So things have been going pretty crazy outside my house. I don't know if it's affecting my internet or whatever, but shout out to all you guys. If you did miss that part, that was one of the main things we kind of said in relation to this point. If you're going to reply to our weekly tweet to give us a hot take to talk about, make sure you keep an eye out for us contacting you for that extra clarification, because for all we know, a response from this guy could have given a completely different perspective on this take, right? So but yeah,
and keep in mind, if you are keeping an eye out for that, it is usually like one of us. I think we usually don't use the slot one super. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should exclusively use the slot one super. Okay, I used my own for that one because I was like, hey, listen, if it's me, maybe they'll respond.
Have you block your main?
Well, then not, why are they watching a podcast? They don't like me. That's the fuck they watch it.
I hate Dokkan assets everywhere but the podcast.
Right. I mean, listen, dog, I appreciate you supporting the homies if that's the case, I suppose. But it's still like, bro, if you don't like me, why are you watching?
I hate assets.
Shout out to all those. Shout out to everyone who hates Theo, but is only here for me and Minato.
What a strange shout out. That's the strangest shout out I've ever heard, bro.
You know what?
I'm joking.
If you hate Theo, you hate me.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like Theo, then there's something wrong with you. He's a great guy.
Oh, thanks, man. Listen, I know I got haters out there, but that's all right. That means that I'm doing the right thing, you know?
If I know you personally, I will like DM you. I guess that's one thing, right? You know.
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah,
Annie,
definitely.
You know, like I knew Annie, and when he did his take, but yeah,
yeah,
because it's easier that way, right?
Right, exactly. If it's somebody that you talk to on, frequently, it's like, well, I might as well just message them because obviously, I know they're gonna respond to me. Then, maybe the slot one account, but. Regardless, though, yes, definitely. If you do respond to that tweet, keep your eyes peeled for a potential DM from any three of us or the account. And as well, I do want to mention, thank you guys so much for always replying on those. I mean, obviously, those tweets have the benefit of being retweeted by all three of us, but every time one of those twake, I'm turning into the boss baby over here, bro. Every time one of those trash take tweets is posted, I always see quite a few replies. So thank you guys for replying to that, because it's always nice to be able to. We have options, right? It's I feel like there's never been an episode where we're like, yep, this is the only take we have, and this is what we got to go with. So. We always appreciate you guys, your support, and not to mention your interaction on the post. But with that being said, we have the final segment of the podcast for today. We're going to be reading out your super chats and donos from the stream. Obviously, we always like to save these for the end, and I know we had a couple come through. So, Ningen, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so there's been a couple. There was a couple at the start that, for some reason, have been cut off from Streamlabs, which is unfortunate. I'm pretty sure I remember the names though, because it's Philip Rodriguez and Chili. I believe, both gave a $2 super chat basically at the start when we were talking about heroes, just to say hashtag heroes agenda. So I appreciate you guys. Actually, I did mention that in my recent videos. Obviously, you know, we're all doing it across the community. Lots of heroes content is going to be coming up. One of the things I made a tweet about, anytime you guys are replying to or making your own posts about heroes, let's try and use that hashtag heroes agenda, because I think it'd be kind of awesome if the day the banner comes out, we could get hashtag heroes agenda trending on Twitter.
Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be amazing.
Cool. So yeah, shout out to those guys. We also have look at Minato, he's like
I don't want that stinky hashtag to trend. I Minato's flash.
I would start hashtag heroes suck, so we'll get that trending.
Damn.
Bro, see, there you go. That's your like a strategy to get it trending. You both will battle and have two different like groups of people posting the time.
I'll do hashtag heroes magenda. If the units are good, then I won't do that.
Monato wakes up extra early to be a hater. So, all right. So, shout out to we have Philip Rodriguez here with the $10 super chat. Appreciate you. He says, if you sort your box by acquired, who is the first SSR that appears in your box? I'm assuming he means UR, because obviously at this point that unit would be a UR. Who is the first UR that appears in your box? Any sentiment or memories of it? Mine is Tech Perfect Cell. Thanks to him, I could beat AGL Super Saiyan 3 Goku's Dokkan event. So to answer that for me, my first SSR is Physical Bardock. So Physical Bardock, obviously one of the first units I would have pulled off of the banners. Well, actually, I guess I say that, to be fair. It's not Physical Bardock. It's the AGL Super Saiyan Goku. But that's because when you start the game, you get to do that like free multi where you get basically Goku, is it Piccolo or like the STR Gohan? So I don't really count him. But Physical Super Saiyan Bardock. And I have the memories of him because obviously I started the game like, you know, 6 years ago. So back then when we didn't even have like, you know, there was the leaders that had like 3 ki and 3,000 attack or whatever it was. So Physical Bardock was basically my main leader for my team because back in those days, he obviously didn't even have a TUR awakening. And his leader skill was all types ki +2. Which for back in those days, that was a great leader skill because then I could run all the units that I wanted together and they actually could get super attacks. So all types ki +2 was unironically a good leader skill. So
that's funny. I mean, yeah, anything that boosted like full rainbow in any capacity was so correct back then. For me, so again, I don't know if we're counting this. Ironically enough, I must have not done that free like first summon. But so my beginning is kind of weird on Dokkan because my original global account where I started, I actually gave it away to somebody in my Discord a really long time ago because it had, for some reason, I swear it was like locked, excuse me, where I could not pull anything on it to save my life for years of playing on it. So I don't remember what my first unit would have been on that global account where I started the game. However, obviously with JP being my main, and I started it pretty shortly after, the first unit in my box is actually Fizz Tientia because I started during the Dragon Ball Fusion celebration. But if we're not counting the free-to-play unit that was in your box, right? Because I did start like during that celebration. It wasn't just he was lingering there from like a previous celebration.
Yeah, because he was like a login bonus card, right?
Yeah, he was the login bonus at the time, and then obviously now you can just farm him up. So I am pretty nostalgic to Tiench. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not even gonna ever touch that version of him. I'm not gonna awaken him. I'm just gonna leave him there to kind of preserve him for a little bit of Dokkan Assets history. But ironically enough, that yours is Fizz Bardock. My first SSR is actually Tech Great Ape Bardock. He is, he's the GOAT, bro. Which is so funny. I hope so, man. He's another unit that's really old that doesn't have an easy A, but it was kind of ironic because I always liked Bardock, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, he's my favorite Dragon Ball character, so it's kind of funny that I ended up getting him as, my first character, and I'm sure that also helped my love for him, because I was like, wow, so cool, my first summonable SSR! So, that was also pretty hype. But yeah, I'm pretty nostalgic for that unit as well. I definitely have some good memories using it. And of course, back then, even more so than now, the grade 8 mechanic was like so cracked because it's like, whoa, you're invincible? You literally just can't take damage? That's crazy. So, yeah, that's me.
Oh, because it's my turn.
Yes.
My first SSR was this character on my
Oh,
GP.
really?
Wow.
So I made my global account. I guess I used to play global back in the day. I played global when the game came out, and it was for a few months. And then I'm like, I'm gonna switch to JP when I saw Buhan and Omega announced in that 1v jump. So then I switched to JP, and then I lost that JP account, and I was like, oops, because
Oh.
I messed up with the transfer code, and I was like, no, when I had Omega.
Oh.
But I joined the game when what's his face? It was like 150 million downloads to JP or something,
Mm.
and it had like all the god characters featured on there. So I did. I was re-rolling, right, and it was like 15 stones, and then my first SSR character on this account is the boy Omega.
Oh, nice.
Omega. So it's like
Nice.
you see like my first few characters. I got really good luck. I mean, you look at these, my first SSRs.
That is
STR
good
Mega,
luck, yeah.
You're saying 3 Go tanks, AGO Super Vegeta, Physical BB, crazy, right? So good times, man. That was a long time ago. Goodness, I still don't have the Super Saiyan 3 Go tanks right now. It's crazy, but
That's crazy.
yeah, I started with the Arale, like what's it called? When that was still up.
Yeah.
And
I remember
then I've
that.
just been playing with this account since then. So that's cool. I think it was the second time
Very
that
cool.
it was around.
Nice.
Oh,
Gotcha,
I
yeah.
I put my
Yeah.
I put my phone to my camera, but that's not. It's not even up. So
Yeah, I honestly like. Oh man, I really hope they bring back those Raleigh units because my account also has that
Yeah,
like free to
I
play
don't-
Raleigh as well.
Because yeah, I don't have the summonable ones because they came out.
Neither do I.
You know, it was a
neither.
character that I didn't really care about, and obviously being new to the game and how long ago it was, like I don't think anyone expected that they were just never gonna come back. So
Yeah,
I didn't summon for them. So I think unironically they are the only like summonable characters that I don't have because they're
Really
just not
interesting.
available like anymore.
Right.
So yeah, very
Yeah.
unfortunate, but.
Very
But
unfortunate.
yeah, shout out to Philip Rodriguez. That was a pretty great question. That was a nice little trip
Yes,
down
thank
memory
you.
lane there. So we have shout out to Watch and Weep for the $10 dono. He says, other than Tech Ultimate Gohan, who do you guys think Dokkan regret making in terms of unit design? Love the podcast, by the way. So
That's
shout
funny
out to
question.
Watch and Weep.
Thank you.
AGO Golden Frieza.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I agree with that because high key,
He's
you know,
so
it's
good.
so funny. Like you're talking about the original AGL Golden Frieza, of course,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
the OG. So not only is his damage reduction just like absolutely insane, but I know like even I have this one buddy who will come back to Dokkan like every 3 years or something, and it's so funny because every time he comes back for whatever character it is that he really likes, he always brings up the fact that Golden Frieza is still relevant to this day.
Yeah. I mean,
like I don't
he's
know.
not ever gonna age. Really. He's
I
always
mean,
gonna be-
in some of the most difficult events, like he still does take damage, like if he gets
Yeah.
super
Yeah,
attacked, because
that's
90% is
90%
damage reduction
with,
is
like-
insane, but he has like no defense.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And you don't even need to easy A him. He's still good without the easy A.
but yeah, it's like you build him full
crazy.
dodge because he doesn't do damage at all.
Right, he
even
doesn't do
with his
damage,
easy A, and then it's like he either dodges or tanks. Like the only downside, obviously, to him is of the HP restriction. And as we get these events where bosses can hit you so hard, it's like even though he could still tank in that event when his passive is up, I probably wouldn't take him into events like Fusion Zamasu or something, right? Because as soon as you get that turn where you didn't start with enough HP, like that's it, bro is dead. So
Another character you could say is Tech Khalifa. Because they like
Oh, that's a
basically just-
great
they're
one.
probably just scared of like Tech Khalifa and Tech God Goku, right? And then it's
Yeah.
like, oh, we can't release Pure Saiyan bosses, and then they make all these characters want Pure Saiyan enemies. We're like, oh, if we release a Pure Saiyan boss, they'll just bring 2 Tech Khalifas.
Bro, that's like, you know how like in the movies when like the characters are trying to like find the criminal or the bad guy or something, they have like all those people like pinned on the board with all like the lines of string connecting them. I swear like all these units we just mentioned are like up on the board, like Tech Ultimate Gohan's there, Frieza, Khalifa.
Yeah.
Dokkan's like most feared characters. Whenever they make a new event, they consider them specifically. Oh man,
That's funny.
that's funny.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head, but yeah, that Golden Frieza is definitely a good example.
I think that's it. I
I
can't think
mean,
of anything else.
Could you say, I don't know, would we, I guess it's too early to say, right? Because I think the question kind of hints at, because obviously like Tech Gohan, it's always a meme. It's like, what are they even going to do when they Easy A him? Like he's so good
Nothing.
still. Like even just with Easy A stats, he's already going to be like relevant still, right? So, but yeah, I mean, units like Orange Piccolo and Bulma, we'll see if we ever get units that come out and are just as like, oh, okay, this is like the new best unit in the game. Like, just because,
it's like, okay,
like Piccolo now is still, you could make
crazy,
arguments that he's still the best unit in the game. Like, it's just ridiculous how good he is, and he's gonna be a year old in like a month or so,
months,
right? So that's pretty
I feel
crazy.
like it's just like, okay, they give us another unit. Like, how do you replace Bulma as best unit in the game?
Yeah,
you just have to make a better Bulma. And
yeah.
like that
Plus, we need an extreme version of Bulma, right, for the extreme teams.
That would be cool.
Like at that point, it's like, oh, now I have 2 Bulma.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like, I mean, you could argue maybe in like 5 years, like maybe 5 years is a long time, but like in like 3 years, like physical God Goku is still going to be probably just as good.
True.
You know, or like really good. So maybe like in 3 years, like, oh yeah, we made a mistake with physical God Goku. Even who knows? Because he's a type of unit that's like you could easily tell will age very well.
Yep.
He's like a lot of people call him like like a modern tech Gohan because like it's like, is he really like with 60% dodge, guard, stacking? There's a lot in his kit that's like hard to age out very easily.
I think it's one of those things. Gohan is always going to be in that conversation because it's like we've made jokes about it for years now, but it's like the meme that Gohan is the reason why units just do not get like unconditional guard and like defense stacking because they just become insane and they never age. So
yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Watch and Weep for that one. That's a good one. Tech Gohan, who knows when his Easy A will come? I'm sure it'll be great. But shout out to, but they don't even have to do much, right? So shout out to Mega Nice for the 55 TRY. He says the donation is for Ningen and the podcast, but I'd like to dedicate this message to Ajal. Show some appreciation to him. Shout out to the boy Ajal. Some of you will obviously know he's a regular in the streams, so shout out to him. Shout out to Prof for re-upping his channel membership. He says, thanks Slot 1 Super Podcast crew. I know Ningen will hate me for this, but I did my last discount rotation on the Goku banner and got my first dupe. Where's the ban from the channel button? Nice. Shout out to Prof. Yeah, good luck. Good for you. I mean, obviously he is the boy. He's super hyped for Heroes. I know he's got a ton of stones left over for Heroes, so you know he's in the same boat as me, right? We wanted that Goku for the shenanigans with the Heroes Super Saiyan 4s. So congrats, as much as I say through gritted teeth, but yeah, congrats and good luck. Then we have our boy Philip Rodriguez again. Shout out to this man on the list for a couple of gifted memberships to the channel, so I appreciate you. Alpha George, CJ Blaze, I don't know if this is even supposed to be a word, TIQDM, Kenny and Brian Anthony. Appreciate you guys. You now have channel memberships. Shout out to you guys. I believe that is all the super chats because Streamlabs does have a weird habit of cutting ones off every now and then. I'm just having a quick scroll through the chat to make sure we didn't miss any, but I'm not seeing any more on the Streamlabs side. So appreciate all you guys for the contributions. And yeah, that is it for tonight's ones.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up for today's episode. Everybody, thank you so much for coming by. Obviously, it is always very much so appreciated to see all of you in here. We had a very good episode today, obviously talking about Goku, some of the hero stuff, Piccolo, and Gohan. I'm excited to see. So for next week, what will we actually what are we talking about next week? Because what will be released between now and then for Dokkan?
Nappa's Easy A.
Yeah, I think it's mostly Easy A's and then like some other, like segments of the anime, like the events, right? Like
Beerus.
We'll get Beerus's Easy A. We'll get the second stage of that nuking event. Like JP will get some extra bits from theirs. I imagine it's probably not going to be anything too crazy. So
I mean, we'll have the version update in JP.
Oh yes, that is true. We'll talk about that next week when that actually drops. But there was some in the preliminary information for that. There was some pretty interesting things. But we'll talk about it when it actually, like comes to fruition. But anyhow, yes, thank you all for watching this week's episode. Hopefully you all enjoyed. keep in mind that these episodes do go up right away, as now we are keeping up the live VOD, so you do not have to wait for the replay to be uploaded if you want to indulge in some more repeated, I guess, if you were here watching it. But, you know, this episode of the podcast and as well, if you would like to listen to us on Spotify, of course, link to that in the description below. And obviously those always go up a day after the podcast episode at the same time that we would normally start the podcast today. So definitely go check us out over there. We have been getting people listening, I will say. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I'm the one who's, you know, usually responsible for uploading that. And I got to tell you, we have had a couple of listeners under our belt. So that's awesome to see that people are listening to us on Spotify. So yeah, thank you guys for all of your support. But with all that being said, this has been Masked Ninja, Minato's Flash, and Dokkan Assets. And we will see you all again next time. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yeah. Also, shout out for me. I'm going to give you guys a quick heads up since the times have changed in the UK. So the podcast is finishing a little bit earlier, which gives me some extra time before your boy has to go to bed. So 10 minutes over on the second channel, Ningen Plays. I'm going to be streaming some more Alan Wake 2. So if you guys want to come over to the other channel and check out some spooky survival horror, I will be live over there in 10 minutes. The link to the channel is in the chat.
Nice. So, yeah, if I'm allowed to plug as well, I will mention
plug away.
Thanks, bro. Let me unplug my computer real quick. No. I will mention your boy is streaming tonight. I do usually stream Fridays, but I did want to mention this stream will be a little bit of a fun one, because obviously with that huge shaft that I had on Goku on JP, I'm going to be summoning a little bit on Global tonight to see if I end up getting them. So come around for that, because that'll be certainly a fun time. And you can, I don't know, you can clown on me if I get shafted again or something. But yeah. Regardless, though, yeah, thank you all for coming out. Minato, you want to drop any plug, bro? We're all doing it. You might as well throw something in there.
Just Dokkan Battle on my main channel. I might stream tonight, maybe, if I'm actually not really doing, like, I have something I gotta do today, funny enough, so I won't stream like I want. But you know, check out Minato's Flash on YouTube and Twitter. That's it.
Yeah, do it.
Do that right now. Right now. Actually, check out the stream too.
Right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Right there.
Hey.
Yeah. That's all. I don't have anything to say this week.
Well, that'll be everything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.